Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting, April 9th, 2018. Please stand for Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Board of Selectmen would like to thank, a big thank you to Mr. Tim McGann of 46 Charles Street, who spent his day on Saturday, March 31st, clearing the rail trails with his leaf blower from Charles Street in Abington all the way to Plain Street in Rockland. If anybody hasn't seen the rail trails, they're all paved, and it's really neat. I get to walk them a little bit this weekend, so it's really neat. It's a lot better than, it was kind of uneven before with the rocks, so now it's nice and level, so, you know, for bikes and walking. So, and with the spring weather, we're all set for that. Announcements down the end. Tom, what do you got?
Donations are wanted for Friends of the Library annual book sale. Donations of new and used hardcover adult and children's books will be accepted beginning Monday, March 26th at the Abington Public Library for the Friends of the Library book sale. Fiction and nonfiction books in good condition, hobby books, and puzzles. CDs and DVDs may be left at the library. At this time, the Friends will not be accepting Reader's Digest condensed books, textbooks, encyclopedias, or VHS format videos for this sale. All proceeds from this book sale are used for the sole purpose of supporting our town's adult and children's library programming, museum passes, and other library needs. The Friends' 41st annual book sale will be held on Friday, April 27th from 12:30 to 4:30 p.m. and Saturday, April 28th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. in the Copeland Room of the library. Please note that bags may be filled for a cost of $3 per bag, containing beginning at 1 p.m. on Saturday. While books placed in the donation container near the library reduce trash costs for the town, they do not directly benefit the Friends. And also, from the library, mystery author Barbara Ross will visit the Abington Public Library on Thursday, May 3rd at 7 p.m. Barbara Ross is the author of 6 Maine clam-bake mysteries. The 7th, Steamed Open, will be published in December 2018. Her novella featuring Julia Snowden is included along with stories by Leslie Meyer and Lee Hollis in Eggnog Murder. A second anthology, U-Log Murder, is coming in October 2018. Barbara's books have been nominated for multiple Agatha Awards for Best Contemporary Novel and RT Books Reviewers' Choice Awards, as well as the Maine Literary Award for Crime Fiction. In the summer, Barbara writes on the front porch of the former Seafarer Inn overlooking the harbor in Booth Bay Harbor, Maine.
Thank you, Andy.
Books will be available for purchase and signing at the conclusion of the program. 60 people will be accommodated on first-to-arrive basis. Registration is not necessary. Refreshments will be provided by Friends of the Library and the library staff. Barbara Ross' appearance courtesy of the author. Please direct questions to the library director, Deborah Grimmett, at 781-982-2139. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the most you've talked since you've been a selectman. Alex?
What's he say?
Actually, you're a gardener part-time, right, Alex? So
Yes, I am, yes. Eco-friendly floral design for the spring season will be the program for the Abington Garden Club on Monday, April 16th at the Parish Hall of the United Church of Christ on Route 18 in Abington. The speaker, Nancy Vargas, owner and principal designer of Le Jardin Blanc, has worked for over 25 years in the field of interior architectural, floral, and landscape design. The meeting will begin with a luncheon at 12, followed by the program at 1 p.m., and the public is invited.
Thank you. Mr. Burbank?
The Abington Celebrates is holding a Founders Day 5K on Saturday, January 9th at 9 o'clock a.m., beginning and ending at Beaverbrook Elementary School, 1 Ralph Hamlin Lane. Timing provided by Colonial Roadrunners. Medals for the top 3 finishers will be awarded in various age categories. Money raised benefits the Abington Celebrates program. You can sign up on racewire.com. And there's also flyers around, I think, different areas in the town that you can pick up, or email abingtoncelebrates@gmail.com.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Manning?
This Saturday, weather permitting, as long as we don't have a blizzard or a foot of snow, we should be opening up our recycling yard on
Compost site?
compost site to take in grass and leaves and small sticks, not huge trees, although we had a lot of huge trees down. But that is opening up this Saturday, weather permitting. I'd also like to announce the return of the second annual fishing derby on June 9th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We'll be holding a children's fishing derby for children ages 6 through 17. We had our first derby last year during Founder's Day, and it's after Andy's race on Saturday. And we had a great time. The kids had a ball. I hope to get more kids this year. And I'll have an announcement out to the schools hopefully by the first week in May. So we're looking forward to getting some more information out there about that and looking forward to the children participating. Just remember that for every child participating, we like to have an adult there being right there with them. Thank you very much.
More of the Abington celebrates that weekend, Founder's Day, Flag Day weekend, June 9th, 10th, I believe it is. There's 2 events there, and we are hoping to bring the fireworks back to town that weekend. We're not positive yet if it's going to happen, but one of the fundraisers we're having to try to raise funds for the fireworks is Thursday, May 10th. Abington celebrates Make and Take Sign fundraiser. That's going to be at the American Legion, May 10th, 7 o'clock. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but again, visit the Abington Celebrates site on Facebook or abingtoncelebrates@gmail.com for more information. Thank you for your patience in that. Public appointment, 6:35. Let me read the Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Monday, April 9th, 2018, at 6:35 in the Carter Hearing Room, 500 Glenowitz Way, on the application of Guilherme Matos for transfer of a commercial garage license from Miranda's Auto Body to Excel Auto Collision Services, Inc., 123 Center Ave. If the applicants want to come up to the microphone, please. And while they're on their way up there, reading through, it looks like most of the paperwork is in order. However, there were some concerns from the, let me get to that page if you could, from the zoning enforcement officer, and no concerns, issues with the transfer of the license, but would like to assure the new business owner needs to file following with the building improvement. New owners have applied for change of, they're concerned about the parking there because there's at least 3 or 4 businesses on that property. And Dory spoke to the zoning enforcement officer. I believe you spoke to the applicants today about this?
Yes, exactly, we spoke today. And the building inspector is requesting that you approve the license contingent upon a change of occupancy. And that's just a procedural thing that's done in the building office. Once that's done, then they're able to specify which business is which, because there's about 5 or 6 businesses there. And there's also one additional business that's there that wasn't on the original plan. And the building commissioner's concern is that the plan is now 16 years old with an additional business that's not on the plan. So he further recommends that should you award the license tonight contingent upon the change of occupancy, that further that in 3 months' time, the owner of the real estate go through site plan review and get an updated site plan.
And that's
Through
done.
the planning board.
The planning board.
And he says that's about a 3-month process.
Okay.
And to check back in about 3 months to ensure that, and that would be on the owner of the real estate to have that accomplished.
That's disgusting.
Questions from the board?
So what would happen in that interim? It's contingent on the site plan review?
No, contingent upon the change of occupancy, which is just a procedural thing that you could do in the morning. And grant the, once that's done, your office would release the license, and then, within the 3 months, if that hasn't been done, gone through site plan review through the planning board, then he would come back before you.
And at
You
that
could
point,
have, like, the license be revoked at a certain
I
date, or
understand.
come back and, do a check on the license.
So if the planning board denies it, he's out of business?
Well, if they denied the site plan review,
Well,
I
yeah,
mean, I think
they wouldn't deny it.
They-
What they would do is they would solidify,
what's,
Parking
exactly
spaces go
what
to which
exists
business?
on the
Well,
site.
where's the parking plan for the current occupant?
On page 4.
There's one,
yeah, it's in there. And so the building commission is concerned that this plan is 16 years old, and there's been an additional business added to it. So he's not sure which space is now or which. So the change of occupant will solidify that for him for your license tonight. But his recommendation to you is that the applicant go to planning board for site plan review.
well, not the applicant,
The owner of the
Property
real
owner.
estate, it's exactly, the onus is on the owner of the real estate.
Yes. Right. As you know, there's other properties in town that have so many businesses that over the years, it's become difficult. So rather than holding up this particular license and business owner,
Well, yeah, we're not holding up his license, but he could be out of business in 3 months, too. So, I personally, I have no problem with, having planning board look at this, but, I mean, I don't think we should make the guy get in there for 3 months and then with the chance of being out of business. I mean, I'd be in favor of giving them the same number of cars that the other existing business has there. And then the new business, whatever the new business is in there, the owner should redo it anyway, but, I mean, we're basically transferring an existing license.
Yep.
essentially, that's correct.
So, I mean, I don't think it should be on this fella to take a chance of losing his license. If the current owner stayed there, they're gonna have their license 3 months from now.
This map that we have with the 33 spaces,
Right.
is that from Excel, or are those 33 spaces labeled from the new owners?
It was from the prior owner,
What?
Miranda's Auto Body
Okay,
as
so
well.
Excel had these 33 spots.
Yes, exactly. The number of spots hasn't changed, nor has the change in hours hasn't changed. She's not requesting any change whatsoever from Miranda's Auto Body. No change.
What is the other business that is down there, do you
The
know?
new business, it's a daycare.
Oh, it's- okay.
It's
So
around
there's
the
no-
back.
In
no
that,
path,
in that
but-
same buil,
Pizza.
in that same building?
It's around, there's Spencer's Pizza.
Yeah.
Big Lee's,
Yeah.
Excel Auto. There's another business there, and then an additional daycare. Anderson Insulation.
There's a daycare back there? Holy shit.
Yeah, I take Alex's point, that the existing license is for 33 spots.
Same.
It's a
Yeah.
legitimate problem, yeah.
If there wasn't a transfer, those 33 spots would still be there. and-
Right, it's a somewhat of a dilemma. How do you compel the owner, and again, in good faith, to go ahead and update the site plan? And this is gonna sound like probably poor terminology, but without utilizing this license as a
Yeah, and
as
that's
a
my whole
means
point. I don't
to-
think we should be utilizing this
So-
license
so
to
it's
do
a-
that.
Right,
It's got nothing to do with him.
so,
Do we know how many parking spots the other business needs, or?
The other businesses involved?
Yeah.
No, that's what he's trying to determine, which is why once you do the change of occupancy, he said he'll be able to go in and figure that out.
Well, then let's approve this with no contingencies, and then we'll know how many lots, spaces are needed for all the businesses, and then it's the owner's responsibility.
and we could in good faith ask the owner to update his site plan, but
Well, Anderson
no-
still
there's
own
no-
that property?
Pardon me?
Anderson still own the property?
Yes.
I don't think they'd have a problem with doing that.
we can certainly make the request, but obviously.
But I don't think we should tie his hands with it.
Certainly
Recommendation?
your call.
Well, we have to open it up to the,
Yep, we got to
Yeah, that's it, sorry. Thank you, Alex.
So is there any other questions from the board?
not right now.
Does anybody in the audience have any concerns or questions about the transfer garage license of 123 Center Ave? Okay, we'll make a motion to close the hearing.
So moved?
Motion's made, we have seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. The hearing is closed.
I'd make a motion to transfer the license from Miranda to XL Auto with no contingencies.
Second.
The motion is second. Further discussion?
Can I just ask you a question, sir?
Yeah.
Do you need all 33 of these spaces?
Yes,
you
I
know?
do.
You do? And this is just a straight auto body repair shop?
Yes.
There's no sale of cars, there's no?
No.
And you use all 33 of them?
Yeah. Actually, I feel like we need more spots. 'cause-
Uh-oh. Don't say that.
Don't say that.
He's honest.
We explain, we
I'm on
we
your
plan on
side here, but
expanding.
don't say
We really
that.
do.
What's that?
We plan on expanding
Okay.
with our business.
Well, we'll definitely do a site
Lead
plan
site
review
plan
then.
review at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. My only concern is the letter in there from the fire chief. That was a number of years ago.
That
but
was a
about
number of
the-
years
Yeah.
ago.
Not being able to get their vehicles down there and that sort of a thing.
Yeah, exactly. That past documentation is the reason that they are requesting the site plan review.
Can we just follow this up with a letter to Mr. Anderson asking him to, you know?
I actually had spoke to Mr. Anderson today,
Yeah.
and he said he's gonna jump right on it.
Okay.
But we will follow up.
So I guess the question would be, what happens if he comes back and there's not 33 spaces available to this business? Is that something we can amend at that point in time?
You certainly can, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just so you're aware.
Yeah.
That if the site plan comes back and they say there's way too many spaces for that area, we could potentially amend the
Adjust.
license and reduce the number of parking spaces for you.
I understand.
Okay? All right.
Worst-case scenario.
Yeah, but just so you were aware.
But you'll still have a license?
Yes, you still have your license, yeah.
All right.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion.
I did.
Yeah,
Tom seconded.
Oh, yeah, that was further discussion part. So, no further discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Good luck. Good luck. Thank you.
Sometimes the less said, the better.
6:45, we have a public hearing. Board of Selectmen hold a public hearing on Monday, April 9th, at 6:45 in the Carter Hearing Room, 500 Glenwood Way, in the application of, I'm going to spell this name, I'm sorry, Joao Jardim, manager, Giardino's Inc., for an all-alcohol beverages restaurant license and entertainment license, 497 Bedford Street, DBA Giardino's. Am I pronouncing that right, Giardino's? Yeah. Excellent. Welcome. And your attorney is Mr. Whitney?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome, Ron.
Members of the board. Feeling a little deja vu here.
You were sitting here,
You're
though.
still here. All of you are still here.
Want your seat back? I'll get up.
Thank you. Yes, it's my pleasure to be here representing Mr. Jardim. He's actually in business with his brother Edva and his sister Ian. And you may find Mr. Jardim familiar because he's been operating a business here in Abington for the past 13 years.
12 years, yeah.
Yeah, 12 years, I'm sorry. And it's called Terra Nossa. It's the Brazilian supermarket that's up at the Farmers Market complex. And so he's operated that very successfully for the past 12 years. Employs about 20 people there. It's about 7,000 square feet in size. About 3,000 square feet of that is restaurant. And the other 4,000 is a butcher shop and a retail store that sells dry goods, various Brazilian specialties. So Mr. Jardim, before getting involved in the Brazilian store, had a great deal of experience in the restaurant business, worked at a lot of places locally, Bella's Restaurant, Campanelli's up in Braintree, the Venetian up in Weymouth. So he had a lot of experience in the food service business. As well, during the course of the past 12 years, operating the Terra Nossa store, he's also operated a full-scale restaurant in the city of Fort Myers, Florida, believe it or not, a distance away, but he's been successful. Had that for 3 years and sold it after being very successful with it. So that had a beer and wine license, and he employed approximately, how many people, John? 30 people. 30 people. And so recently, the opportunity arose for him to go forward with a restaurant proposal where the Great Chow has been for a number of years. And unfortunately, the Great Chow did not end successfully. I think the board is probably aware that they did return their license to the town, and this is a new application that you have before you. The Great Chow, as it's existed for many years, will not change. The configuration of the building will be the same outside. They are doing some interior renovations. Minor, yeah, cosmetic, a lot of cosmetics. And he hopes to operate a full-scale Italian restaurant and serve sushi as well. And so he has become tip certified, as his wife has, who work in the business. John will be the manager. He does live in Whitman. He's 45 years old, has 5 children, and he's a U.S. citizen, having emigrated to the United States back at the age of 17, and worked very hard to get where he's gotten. He owns currently not just the Abington store, but also has a store in the town of Brockton, the city of Brockton. And so he anticipates employing approximately 40 people in the restaurant. And the restaurant is proposed hours, of course, subject to your approval, are 11 a.m. to 1 a.m. And he will be there approximately 70 hours per week. As I say, he lives locally, the town of Whitman, and his other store is up the other end of Route 18, so he'll be back and forth between the two, but expects to spend a great deal of time there at the restaurant. The restaurant seats 368 people. That's what was on the previous license. That is the number of seats that John will maintain if this license is approved. And it has 122 parking spaces. So there's plenty of parking, and he'd be happy to answer any questions that the board might have.
Board members, questions?
Do you anticipate, Great Chow had entertainment, are you anticipating any entertainment there?
At least not at the beginning. I want to try not to get involved with that. It's not the type of thing I want to go with it. I want to try to be more like a family type of restaurant. I don't anticipate to have any, we'll see down the road, but not at the beginning at least.
Thank you.
I try to keep a very healthy environment. So not that I have any problems with entertainment, but at least at the beginning, I'm not planning to do anything.
So you want the liquor license from 11 a.m. till 1 a.m.?
Yeah, just to have
seven
a
days
bar.
a week?
Yeah, because we have a bar there, and I'm going to have some TVs and sports.
Yep.
And so,
That's 7 days a week, 11 a.m. to
7 days
1
a
a.m.
week.
Yeah.
Any other board members, questions? I would be remiss if I did not say, you created quite a hubbub with your sign, because Italian restaurant and sushi just,
Doesn't necessarily go together.
no, I'm not saying it doesn't mix, it's
a
just,
lot of people have been asking, but it's I believe on diversity under the same roof.
absolutely.
I go by my family. Me and my wife we talk there all the time. We go out a lot.
Yeah.
My kids love sushi. I love Italian food. Where do we go?
Now you just gotta
Now you get a place to go if you have the issue at your house.
Exactly, yep. Well, good luck to you on that. Any other questions from the board? No. Questions from the audience, concerns or questions from the audience? Seeing none, I will make a motion, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Motion
Second.
made and seconded, all in favor of closing the hearing?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Motions for this license. I just want to make a note that from the zoning enforcement officer, new business owners have not applied for a change of occupancy, occupant permit with the building department as of today's date. I'm sure new business owners are aware of this, but just, they wanted us to reiterate it. Would be greatly appreciated. Okay?
Does the approval have to be cited with that change happening?
No, no.
No.
And I do have a wish, is there a waiting list for alcohol permits?
This one was because Great Chow returned their license to the town.
Right,
So this one
but is
became
there,
available.
is there a waiting list?
We don't have a waiting
You don't have a
list,
waiting list,
no.
okay, I just wanted to make
No.
sure we weren't bypassing anybody, okay.
There are none available, right.
Right, this was the only one available, and there's no waiting list,
Yep, no waiting list.
okay.
Motion to appoint full liquor license operating from 11 a.m. to 1 a.m. 7 days a week for Giardino's at 497 Bedford Street.
Second.
We have motion second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous vote, good luck.
Good luck. Thank you.
Good luck. Not a public hearing, so we can, Steve's here, so we'll do that. We're actually running ahead of schedule, so update from Mr. Steve Wakeland, who I saw here, correct? Chairman, Strawberry Valley Golf Committee.
Why are all these people?
Come on down, Steve.
For the zoning.
Uh-oh.
Free golfer. Oh, no free golf.
In case I start talking about the course specifics, I want you to know what I'm talking about here.
I think we're all pretty familiar with it.
Is that right? I don't see a lot of golfers at this table.
Yeah?
Gophers?
You don't?
Try. We're not golfers.
I wouldn't call myself a golfer, I'd just call myself a hacker.
There you go. That's a better word.
Where's the house?
I don't know if you have specific questions, or you just want me to kind of give an
Can you just
update?
give us a little brief update of what's going on? I know that we had some questions about the rental property on there. But other than that, just tell us what you've been doing, what's been going on.
Okay, I can do that. Steve Wakeland, I live at 47 Buckwood Lane, and I'm chairman of the Abington, of the Strawberry Valley Golf Course, and have been on the committee for several years. The other members of the committee, I did make, in case you didn't have questions, I was prepared here. The other members of the committee are Frank Lane, Chris Nagel, Paul Kelleher, and Leo Lane, and we've all been on the committee for anywhere from 10 to 2 years. Pardon me?
Long time.
Long, well, I don't want to say too long. Our secretary is Patricia Lebrecht. She attends our meetings and takes our minutes. We meet the first Wednesday of every month, so you're welcome to come up anytime. And during the summer, we meet the third Wednesday. During the winter, we meet here in
Meet at
town.
the golf course?
During the winter, we meet at Town Hall, but during the summertime hours, we meet up at the golf course. Now, we've had the property since, I think, 1986. And since I've been involved, we've had two companies that we've leased the property to. Johnson Management, maybe 12 years ago, and for the last 10 years, we've used Com Golf Management. Com has been in taking care of the course for us, 2 sessions. We've put it up to bid twice since they've been there. They came 5 years ago, rebid, got the bid again. So at the end of this year will be the end of their second leasing term, which has been for 10 years. They've done a wonderful job up there. From what we hear, very friendly. They're trying to draw in as many golfers as they possibly can, because the more golfers they bring in, the more they make. I mean, the town gets a certain amount of money for leasing the property to them. But we still want to see it improve. We still want golfers up there, and we still want it to be, in great shape year-round. Over the last few years, some of the improvements we made up there, and I'll just go through a list here that I made from some notes. The entire course now has irrigation. Years ago, we were only able to water the greens and the tees, which were nice and green, but as you went up the fairway, it was all brown and burned. So with the help of Com Golf and getting some money from the capital plan, we're able to put an irrigation system on the entire course. Along with that, we needed to bump up the pump house. Now, at the 5th hole, there's what we call the pump house, and within that is a pump, which is why we call it the pump house. But it pumps water from the lake there, the little pond on the 5th, and it's used to, service the whole golf course. Before we had the irrigation put in, we did have a study done to make sure that it would hold enough water for the increased water usage, and it does. So, new pump house, control panels within inside, and able to get water to the entire golf course. We've updated the cart paths. On all the tees now, we have cart paths that take you away from the tee and up to the next hole. You need cart paths because of water, because of roots, because of going through some foresty areas. It makes it for a nicer course. So we're able to get cart paths throughout the entire course. At the clubhouse, we've updated lighting, we've updated bathrooms, we've updated the kitchen area. We've purchased our own ice machine, and we've done some more plantings outside to try to make it more of an appealing place to walk into. I don't know if you've seen the front of the clubhouse, but it's right at the clubhouse itself faces the second tee, and we have a lot of golfers that like to try to drive the ball into the front of the clubhouse, which is doable. Actually, I've probably seen some of you guys. I have seen you guys up there doing that, but
Not on purpose.
the front of the clubhouse is in a little tough shape because of the balls that come off of the second tee. So we're always looking to try to fix that, but it's not easy. A few years back, we bought the electric sign that's out front, and the sign is used to publicize different programs that the golf course is having. It's also used for the town usage. I mean, it is town-owned, so I get notifications from mostly the Board of Health asking to put things up for them. So, town meetings, we put the update the sign in order to get more people to town meeting also. We've done some barn improvements, we put a new roof on the barn, and we've updated the door to the barn, which is a very, very old barn. You wouldn't think updating the door would cost a lot, but it costs a bit of money to get that door so it would swing open. And the barn's used to store all the machinery, the mowers, and any types of machine they use to maintain the course. There was an underground oil tank, we had that taken out, and now we have an above-ground oil tank and gas tank, all to code now. Just recently, we went down to the 5th hole, we replaced the fountain on the 5th, at the pond on the 5th hole. We've updated the 7th tee. We've having some problems with people hitting from the 7th tee onto Route 18. So we've moved the tee box a little to the left, hoping people wouldn't hit their drives onto Route 18. That's worked a bit, but we're good for a couple people coming up to the town hall a couple of times a year, wanting some money for the dents in their cars. Just recently, we also got a memorial bench on the 9th tee, which was nice, getting benches on every tee box. So those would be just a summary of some of the improvements. Issues we have up there, most of the issues we have for the golf course concern weather. Whether it's snow, wind, rain, there's always something being broken up there. I mean, just recently, with the storm we had, we lost 10 trees. If you look at the picture I handed out, going down the 2nd fairway, between the 2nd and the 3rd fairway, 5 trees snapped over right there. So now, it's a little dangerous coming up the 3rd, going down the 2nd already, but now we're missing 5 trees there, 5 mature trees. So, I mean, that's something that we're hoping to maybe do a bunch of new plantings this year. I don't think we can get trees big enough, so it's going to take a number of years in order to get some blockage there. Then I'll move on to the house. I mean, we have a house that's part of the golf course, 22 Bedford Street. If you're leaving Abington, the last house on your right is part of the golf course. When the golf course was purchased, or was actually donated through the Truffins, the house came with it. So we have people renting the house right now. We've recently, we will be having them sign a new lease this year, and we've recently increased the rent of the house. That money goes into an account that's, I don't know if it's our money, but it's the town's money. But we use some of that money, for our budget and to help do improvements on the course, to pay for any of the improvements that I've mentioned. The house itself does need some work. Just recently, we put some siding on. It's one of those houses, if you've seen it, the top part is paint, the bottom part is siding. All the siding was all coming off and in ruins, so we've now sided the bottom part of the house. We're hoping to get in there and fix some gutters, do some more painting, and some trim board work around the roof. But we had it inspected 2 years ago. Tiger Inspections out of Braintree came in. The roof's fine, windows fine, plumbing's fine, electrical is fine. So the house is sturdy. It needs, like most of our homes, to be updated, continually. So, we've made a decision just recently that we do want to maintain this house and reap the benefits of the rent that we collect. I guess I made a lot of notes here. I don't know how much time I have, but
No one's slowing you down.
I'm talking fast. Recently, it's a couple of exciting things. Recently, we had a person who abuts the course come to us and talk to us about possibly donating some more land to the course. And I'm not going to throw names out or say whether it's going to happen or not, but we got very excited about thinking about either having conservation land abutting the course or whether enlarging the size of the course, making it a longer 9-hole course or a 12-hole course or, an 18-hole course. And there's also some landlocked properties that we've been approached to purchase. A lot of wetlands. This is behind the fourth fairway. but we haven't acted upon those because, we didn't know what we'd want to do with the land. There has to be a bigger plan put together for us before we start wanting to spend money on purchasing land. Then I'm just going to throw this out. Just recently, we did some research. The electrical wires that go through the golf course, rumor had it that there was a 100-year lease for those wires, whoever put them in, and it ended up being Edison Electric Company of Brockton. So with the help of Jack Pistoriano, we went back and looked at, I guess it's a lease, but in 1926, $5,000 was given to the Truffins for them to be able to build that through, but it's not a 100-year lease, it's forever. I mean, we're kind of hoping that the 100th year would have been 2026, that we could have hit them up for some big bucks, but that's not going to happen.
Good, nice try, though. Good.
The last thing, I'll just go through some capital plan items. I mean, we're always looking to improve the course, and, we want to get a bigger pump for the pond, so we can pump more water, get all the fairways greener. We may go with a second well. To do that, we may want to enlarge the pond. We're always talking about clubhouse renovations. The clubhouse is very, very old. Actually, the clubhouse, from what I'm told, was a house that was in Whitman and was moved to Strawberry Valley quite a while ago. Practice area, driving range, improve netting or add netting. I mean, again, a problem with the balls going on to Route 18. Not that it happens that often, but when it does, it's a problem. And then I just say increase the size of the course. If these properties become available, it would be very nice to grab them and use them either for the course or as conservation land, which leads us to the possibility of taking the course over and the town running the course versus us leasing it to the group, because we could be reaping the benefits of the monies made at the course versus the leaser. So, I mean, that's again, I mean, all that type of stuff would have to go in front of you people in the town to decide whether we want to take the course over or not.
No, the contract length, how long do you sign contracts for? It's not yearly, it's...
No, we go to bid every 5 years with the option of getting rid of them after 3 years. So, right now, we've extended them into the 4th year, and now we've extended them to the 5th year, which is this year. So we'll go out to bid at the end of this year for 5 more years. But what could happen is, if the bids don't come in with higher prices, I mean, it would maybe an opportunity for us to take over the course, this year.
No, this property is already paid for, right?
Yeah, town bought it.
So, any revenues, does the town make money off of this right now?
I don't make money off
No,
it.
no,
I'm
no,
assuming the
no,
town
no,
does.
no.
Yeah.
Well, it pays for
for
its own
itself.
operation and maintenance. There's no surplus, so to speak.
Through the proceeds of
Yes.
Golf
And if
Day.
there is surplus, it goes right back, reinvest it back into the property for repairs and...
And,
The Enterprise Golf, yeah, exactly. The rent from the
Yeah.
house and the proceeds, Golf pays a certain amount each month. And those
What is
proceeds-
what is that number? Steve, do you know the?
It's just under 50,000 for the year, so it's a little over 4,000 a month.
At one point, there was a restaurant in there, right?
Well, we've tried to get more people coming through the clubhouse. To answer your question, yes. We had a group in there who, tried to put tables in there, tried to get a bigger menu, but just the setup of the clubhouse, first of all, it being a 9-hole course, people come in, pay for the 9 holes, when they finish, they leave. Whereas an 18-hole course, you pay for 18, you come through the clubhouse to go to the back 9. No, we don't have a lot of flow through other than people coming in. So the restaurant didn't do that well. It was costing too much money to keep it open and to serve the food. So now we still have the kitchen there. We do hot dogs, soda, just small things, beer.
What's the rent on the house?
The rent on the house has just gone up to $1,800 a month.
Have you done any sort of study, or do you have any idea what it would cost the town to maintain it, how many people we'd need employed and equipment? I'm assuming the equipment is all all belongs to COM.
No, the equipment all belongs to COM Golf.
Yeah.
So for us to take it over, there'd be that initial outlay, and I'll throw out 100,000, 150,000 for the equipment. And we're talking mowers, blowers, slicers, all the things you need to maintain a golf course. So there would be that outlay of money. You talk about, I'm losing my train of thought here. Employees, it really comes down to having one person run the course. It's all seasonal. So, we'd look to, this is just preliminary thinking, but
Right.
we'd look to hire one person, a superintendent, who would work year-round, just as they have a superintendent now. Throughout the year, they maintain the course until the snow and winter hits, and then they just work on equipment all winter, sharpening the blades, making sure everything's up to speed. So, similar to like Island Grove, just all seasonal. They have the park and rec person, one person that kind of stays year-round to help run that.
Any other questions?
How is the house insured? Is that through the town?
Yes, it's on our insurance policy.
Do you know what COM does for income for the year?
Yeah, we get per the lease, we get a financial statement from them in April or May. They do about $450,000 a year, average. I mean, 2015 was their best year, where they hit the, like, 260, 270. And it's been lower these last 2 years. So much depends. What I've learned about the golf course is so much depends on the weather. I mean, last year, Father's Day, which is the biggest day for golf, was a rainy, cold day. And instead of making $15,000 on the one day, they made about $4,000. So if we could
What was
have
that?
good weather every weekend,
What was that number again, Steve? The receipts? 450 or 150?
450,000. And, as far as you talk about employees, it's a minimal amount of people, someone to work the desk, or a couple of people to work the desk. If there's the snack bar, the people that work behind the desk actually run the snack bar, because it is just minimal amount of stuff. And then they have part-time people mowing, and a couple of full-time people, and then some starters certain times. Weekends, they have starters out there also.
Last time you went out to bid, how many people bid on the proposal?
I'd like to say a lot, but one.
Just these guys?
So, yeah, we had 3 people pull packets, only 1 returned it on time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it could happen this year. They know that one came 5 years ago. I mean, they could actually lower the amount of money that they're paying us now, which would be a real shame.
Yeah.
It might be something that we want to look at with that kind of income.
I think it's a little deceiving though, too, because then you
They got
talk
the
about, you have a full-time,
It is.
you know,
It is,
you
yeah.
get really 3 full-timers during the summer and all that helps.
Yeah, but
So that
it's all
450
paid for. I'm trying right now to get all the details behind the costs. I know how much they bring in, but I don't have the breakdown
Right.
of what they spend. There's a whole maintenance and operations that we'll try to get those numbers.
What do they charge for a round?
It's different every time, different days, different times. But the most reasonable thing I hear is, as you get after 4 PM, $20 for 9 holes with a cart, which is very reasonable.
And do they own the carts, or do they lease them?
I think they own maybe 20 carts, and then, when they have events there, they go and they then rent or lease the other carts. So and that would be part of the startup too, figuring out whether you're gonna lease them or go
Right.
buy them.
Do they have any other local golf courses that they maintain, or?
They had been maintaining Rockland, but then that went out to bid and they lost Rockland.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming in.
you.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve.
Very informative.
Hope to see you down there sometime.
What day is the free
I'm down there
golf?
all the time, you're never there.
Once a year.
Stuff 18.
You said there's beer there too, right?
You set it up, we'll come.
Okay, action discussion items. I guess the first item is public comment, and I see some people in the audience, and I think they want to comment on, I'm going to guess, I'm going to shoot it out there, I'm going to guess it's on some of our articles for the, I don't want to put words in people's mouths, but I'll ask them at some point, but I think they'd like to comment on the pot shop articles. Is that just nod, general consensus, yes? So maybe the board might want to move that forward, so that they, I know the planning board did that for them, so if we could delve in, if it's agreeable to the board, we can delve into those articles at least.
Well, if they have comment now, they can give their comment now, right?
Right, they could, I mean, all right, we could do that if you want, or we could,
Then we can move it up after. I'd rather hear what they have to say first.
absolutely. So, here we go, and now's your chance. Come up to the microphone, Marie, you get that look in your face like, oh, no, not me. We'd like to hear what your opinions are, please. Yes, yeah, that'd be a lot.
I'll do my
What do we call, what do we call it when I was doing it?
Can we do
Sally
this,
Jesse?
want me to do Bob, Mike? Yeah, tell him.
We would like, I know that a lot of you folks came to the planning board meeting. I was there for a little while, I had to leave. And mostly your concerns at that point, I think, were the overlay district for the pot shops. I'm gonna call them pot shops, just if, it's a short term. We're gonna be in your neighborhood, mostly off of, you folks are mostly from the Green Street area, I'm assuming, off of Green Street, or,
Abington.
Abington, yes.
Throughout the town.
Throughout the town, but, I mean, I think the biggest concern was where the planning board was gonna allow them to go.
Yes.
Now, please, tell us your opinions or concerns.
Well, the concerns we had, that we have, is the fact that the area that you proposed is really a very residential area. And I know that when the board decided on this area, that the comment was made that it was strictly commercial and very little residential.
I'm getting into one. We didn't propose anything. It's the planning board's proposing, correct?
Well, you had it originally at your last selectmen's meeting, you were talking
The
about
planning
it.
board came to, the planning board came.
The
we had a
planning
joint
board
meeting
had come
with the-
to our board,
Okay.
and we discussed it, and they went back and presented Route 123 from around Sean Riley's office to the Brockton line, basically.
Right, they came in and say, their initial proposal was all of 123.
Yeah.
And then
And
we,
that was just really an informational meeting between the planning board and the selectmen. Nobody took a vote or anything, and that's where we want it. I think, for those of you that weren't at the planning board meeting the other night, the planning board changed the location to the area north of Vineyard Road on Bedford Street and over on Route 58 down into the, before you get to the muster field, and that corner of town. That's what they're proposing now, I believe.
okay, all right.
I guess some of the confusion too is that there are 3 articles here, and one is refer zoning petition articles to the planning board for review. Is that it's confusing that we went to the planning board and they had the map, and then, now does that come to you and then it goes back to them again?
That's a good question, because we haven't, just the first we've seen of it too. So, we asked to put a couple articles in there just to hold the place. They're not even really written yet, I don't believe. They're just placeholders, because we had to get them on there.
And the planning board said they would be holding another public hearing on this and some other.
The only other article relevant to the retail marijuana issue is the article that the board requested that be on the warrant, which is the article to ban retail sale in Abington. And that that still has yet to be heard by the planning board. That public hearing is upcoming at their next meeting. So there'll be 2 articles in front of the townspeople at the annual town meeting. There'll be the one that has already been heard, and that public hearing is technically still open, and the other one would be the opportunity for the public to ban retail sale in Abington. So those two articles will be pending before the public at the annual town meeting. One of those is one that will be, that has already been referred, that will be referred to the, to the planning board. The other signed bylaw is another one that will be referred to the planning board to this evening. That's not what you're referring to this evening. There are some petition articles, none of them that have to do with the retail sale of marijuana, that the board it will be referring to the planning board this evening. That's really a formality, because petition articles, those have to go to town meeting. It's not, that's something that the selectmen really have an option, but to refer them to the planning board, that's the law.
Could you explain to them what a petition article is?
Yes, petition article is an article for an annual town meeting. It just requires 10 signatures of registered voters. If it gets 10 signatures of registered voters for an annual town meeting, it goes before the public. So it's not
So
as if...
somebody presented
Yes.
that petition
correct.
with 10 signatures to get it on the warrant.
So that's the process, so. But those have nothing to do, I'm sorry, Marie. That has those have nothing to do with the question having to do with the retail sale of marijuana, those petition articles, nothing to do with those.
Let me simplify a little, one thing too. Now, the way this, and you guys can interject, the way the pot, I'm not gonna call it retail, I'm gonna call it pot shops. The way the pot shops question works is, if the town voted in favor of it at the election that we had, and I believe it did, 52%.
51.
I think it was 52.6, but anyways, if the town voted in favor of it, the only thing that can stop it now is town meeting to vote to ban it, and then it goes to the polls. So it will be another vote by the town to ban it completely. That's the way that process would work.
So what is it when they're talking about other towns of voting to continue the ban?
We have the town, at the last town meeting, had a temporary ban.
Right.
That will expire in, is it a year? Was it a year?
December of this year.
December of
so-
this
But
year.
it was June, they were going to extend it.
No, it's December.
Is it? Okay.
So could the board vote to extend that ban?
The only way we could have a permanent ban would be put an article in town meeting, which I believe there is one.
Not yet.
Well, no, there's not yet, but it's written on here. And the town meeting would vote it, and then it has to go to the polls again to be revoted, and the way it works is you have to word yes. So the vote yes would be for the ban. And I
So
think
that is going to be on the warrant?
But we're going to
It
decide that
hasn't been
tonight.
determined yet.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I think that's what I wanted to raise. If you look at the warrant,
But if there's an
Marie,
article already written
It is
for it,
proposed to be on the warrant by...
find out if there's an article already.
no, so if you look, you have a copy of the warrant?
Yes.
Okay, so Articles 12 and 13 are the two that deal with,
Oh, I don't have the warrant, I
I
just
think
have the
Marie's looking
agenda.
at the agenda.
oh,
And
the
I think
agenda, okay. So
that's the
on-
confusion.
is-
You're looking at
We have a
number
draft
7.
warrant here that we're working on tonight.
I think there were copies, there's copies over there.
There's two articles in there, one for a total ban of marijuana sales,
Okay.
and one to limit retail establishments to 10% of liquor license holders.
Package stores.
Package store holders. So we have not voted on either one of these. We talked about it at our last meeting. I hope we vote on them tonight, so you have some clarity in whether or not we're going to put these in front of the townspeople, because if not, I think the warrant is open till the 16th, is that correct?
That's right.
So at that point in time, if the board decides they don't want to put this in front of the town at town meeting, it would give a week to get a warrant article petition, as Alex was talking about, in front of the townspeople, so.
And I think what you're talking about is, example, East Bridgewater this weekend had an election, and they voted to ban them, and it was really close vote. It was 50%, 49.5%, something like that. It was really close vote to ban completely
At the election.
at the election.
Whitman has voted to ban it totally.
Rockland, too, I believe.
Rockland, not yet.
Rockland's putting it on the Hingham border.
Oh, okay.
Weymouth has voted, I think Braintree, there's a lot of the surrounding towns have voted. to
So
ban it.
it's my understanding that If we don't have an article banning it, then it's allowed.
Correct. That's my understanding.
Yeah.
What was it you just said? I'm sorry.
If we don't put an article on town meeting to ban it, then it is automatically allowed in town.
If I might, just, the town voted for the election to approve it by 51 whatever percent. It was proposed, a conversation at this table, that maybe we want to relook at that again. So we started talking about what the ramifications were of what we needed to do. And there are two ramifications. One is, we thought we would possibly propose a warrant that would put it back in front of the town people again to vote it one more time to see if they wanted to now ban it as opposed to approve it, which we've already done once. And if you do vote to ban it, you still have to go back to an annual town meeting, election, I mean.
An election.
An election, and actually vote it down. Given that fact, we have to have contingency plans. And the contingency plans, if we're going to allow it, we have a choice of allowing it up to a certain percentage of the total number of liquor licenses that are in the town. We then proposed the second warrant item, which would limit it to one, and only one at this time. It doesn't mean we couldn't increase it later on if we wanted to, but it would only allow one to be done at this point in time. So what we're proposing here right now is to look at what was already voted on, which was to approve it. Now we're looking at consideration to the town if they want to go out and try to undo what they did, which is now disapprove it, and then go to another vote to vote it out, or if we choose to allow it, allow only one establishment in the town. Those are the two warrants.
And if so, where?
That's,
Which is what the planning board
which is what the planning board is working on.
Correct.
Okay, so, can I just, on number 9, it's the update on the planning board's continued zoning hearing. Now, that's the hearing that we went to? So, do you have something from them that you're gonna vote on tonight?
She's talking about this,
No, I
number
think,
9
I
on
think
this.
Alex actually pretty much gave you the update.
The agenda,
You already
number 9.
pretty much heard it.
Frickin' screwed me up.
And the selectmen actually don't vote on the planning boards.
Yeah, that's what they voted
So
on.
we would, actually, that was just, Alex more or less just gave you the update and probably saved us the time later. Other than the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, we don't want anyone to get concerned that the article, if they are indeed, they are indeed going to, they have continued that public hearing. They didn't close it, they continued it, so they could be, they haven't taken a vote, they haven't made a recommendation yet, but they will be doing that. And the articles that the Board of Selectmen will be referring tonight, including the sign bylaw efforts that have been underway, and the board hasn't done it yet, but we're presuming that after tonight, they will also agree to keep the article, an article for an outright ban on retail sale of marijuana on the warrant. Again, that's a decision the board hasn't technically made yet, but I assume after tonight, they will make that a formal part of their warrant. That will be referred to the planning board, and the planning board will consider that at their next public hearing. So that was essentially the update for the agenda. So killing multiple birds with one stone here. So the selectmen don't actually take votes or recommendations on the planning board's business, but it's obviously a very important part of what's coming before the town next month. So that's why it's on the agenda for an update. So.
Do you have, do you have the date for the next hearing?
The planning board?
The planning board will be the first Monday in
In
May.
May, yeah. May 2nd, I think.
6 o'clock, I think, is when they meet.
And how will that be, how will the public know about that?
May 7th.
How will it be publicized?
They have to post a
May
public
7th.
meeting. I'm sure it'll be on the town's website. I know
Town's Facebook site.
Rick Collins posted on Facebook all the time, and it should be on the town's Facebook page.
Okay, when it's in the newspaper, is it just that little article that's,
Yes.
May 7th.
okay, is there any way to
Date,
better
right.
publicize so that people know about it?
Well, you could put it on the bulletin board at the end of the street. You could put it on the bulletin board at the police station, you could put it at the
Put it
bulletin
board
board
at
at
Strawberry Valley.
the Strawberry Valley. so-
Strawberry Valley, there you
We
go.
will see that that is done, Marie, just at your request.
That kind of-
Thank you. Does
So
anybody
it's
else?
May
You're
7th.
doing a nice job at it.
We'll even say per Marie Brown.
Hate these. I'm just curious, I don't know if I heard you correct or not. Now, the selectmen will put forward this, what do you call it, to go on the warrant? Is that it?
The article?
The article, thank you. So you have to work with the planning board before you can do that, is that it?
No.
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 So town council is in the process of drafting the article for us. Because it's a zoning article, it has to have a hearing in front of the planning board. So once the article is drafted, the planning board will have a hearing on that particular article, and they make a recommendation whether or not they think it's favorable or unfavorable. It still goes in front of the town, even if they don't approve it, it still goes in front of the town. But it would just be with an unfavorable recommendation from the planning board.
But that's the zoning part, that
That's the
doesn't
zoning
have
part.
anything to do with the ban.
The
Well, the
ban
ban-
is us.
Yeah, but the ban would be part of the zoning bylaw, I think, so it's a zoning article, I think.
Oh, but you would still be the one to put that
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
article in.
Correct, yeah.
Not the location, but the ban.
ban.
Yeah.
And did I understand you to say the location now, the one they're talking about, is on 58 down to the muster fields?
I don't know the exact area. They did give us a map the other night, but from what I understand it, it's from Vineyard Road north
To the
to
Weymouth
the
line.
Weymouth line.
On Route
and-
18.
On Route 18, and then right onto Route 58, and I'm not sure how far down it goes down there.
Because that's where I'm getting a little concerned, because I live in the muster fields, you know.
No, it's not, definitely not going all the way down into the muster field, no.
Yeah.
We'll show our age by saying the old drive-in, by the old
Yeah,
drive-in.
I think that's the intent, is the drive-in area up to about Coal Tar, but I'm not positive.
I see. It seems like it's a shame that residential areas are even being considered, because, you know, people buy their homes, they put their lives in their homes practically, and then you consider changing the zoning to commercial or industrial, whatever you're calling it, and then
But they're
they
not,
can
they're
put
not
a...
looking to change the zone, well, there's another article to change that zoning, but
I misunderstood. I
But,
thought you were changing.
no, it would be an overlay district where in that zone, in that area, is the only place a pot shop could go. They're not changing it to commercial. It is, part of it is commercial now, and part of it's the technology, whatever they call it. But they're looking to change that to bring business in that area too, on another article.
I mean, I can see, excuse me, I can see business further up on 58 where those businesses are all there now. And,
That's what they're looking to do.
and they
yes.
could put more there, but I mean, to come further down, that's all
No,
residential.
that's not the intent, to go further down where all the houses are on 58.
Okay.
The intent is to develop the drive-in land and to get a commercial tenant, in a commercial buyer in that area.
And does revenue from taxes on pot, does that play into how, whether you're in favor or not?
It's certainly something to consider.
Up into each individual selectman, I guess, and up to each individual voter who hopefully gets a chance to make that determination. But the town can impose, I think, up to a 3% surcharge on the revenues generated from the sales of marijuana. So
It hardly seems that it's,
I agree with you 100%.
The trouble worth the
It's-
money.
I agree with you 100%.
you know, from what you,
$30,000, I don't think it's worth the trouble that it can bring.
no, no.
It's probably about what you're going to end up with.
Well, thank you.
I think it could be more than 30,000. I think.
So I take it that we can come to believe here, knowing that this is
Get $1 million in revenue,
going to be on the warrant.
3% of that's 30,000.
You can stay here and listen to the discussion, but you can't, if you left right now, I wouldn't want to lie to you and say that you left here thinking something and we voted something else in 2 hours, because we still have to talk. We haven't talked yet, we haven't made the decision yet. So I don't want to mislead you, so if you were to get up and leave right now, in 20 minutes, we could have a vote, and it could be a different vote. So I just want you to know.
Yeah.
You're welcome to come back. You're always welcome to come. We all love to have guests.
Run
so.
live.
But we have to have a discussion. We have to go through our agenda and then have this discussion.
You might want to stay, because I'm going to be totally honest with you, is I'm in favor of one pot shop in Abington in an area that's not close to residential, not close to schools, and we get the max 3% extra tax revenue for it. So that's my opinion personally. And I probably should, I'm maybe talking out of school, but I don't want to affect residents. I don't want to be in a neighborhood. Abington needs more business. We do. We see the vacant stores, the storefronts, and I think once people get over the stigma of the pot shop, that's why I keep calling it, that's a pot shop. You know, we got through tattoo parlors. We got through, people were concerned about this District 10 brewery, you know, that it's not bothering anybody right now. We've had several tattoo parlors in town. They've become good neighbors. We have a plethora of package stores in town. And the state has made marijuana legal if you're over 21. The security measures going to be in place in these places. I just think people are, you can't smoke it on the property. You can only smoke it in the privacy of your home. Not that that's, you know, they're probably, well, I'm just going to leave it at that. But I really think people are a little too concerned. I know we put a ban on it, temporary ban, because the laws are constantly changing, and they're trying to sweeten the pot for towns. It was only 2% added tax revenue, now it's 3% added tax revenue. But personally, I'm in favor of one that we control. We control the hours, we control where it's gonna be. So that's my personal opinion on that, and we control where it's gonna be. That's the important thing. And if the planning board comes up with an article that says it's gonna be in an area that I personally don't like, then I would probably vote against it. But right now, I'm in favor of one pot shop, retail marijuana establishment in the town, one, and that's it. That's my personal opinion.
Are you at least in favor of giving the town a chance to vote on this?
That's what I was going to ask.
Personally?
I think that's, I guess, the question, right? If everybody agrees that both of these should be on the warrant, then you guys can leave, because they're both going to be on the warrant, and nobody's going to go back on their word, I imagine. I'm not going to be here after, you know, when you actually set the warrant, but I would imagine if everybody says tonight.
When's the warrant have to be set by?
60?
Well, the 23rd, it'd be probably.
Our next meeting.
We'll be here.
I guess I'll be here.
My feeling is on this, and I think I made that clear to you today when we spoke, is that 52% of the town voted that they wanted to legalize marijuana in the state. It was a state ballot. It wasn't saying I wanted it in my town. They said they wanted it legal in the state. So it will be my recommendation that we put an article on town meeting and let the Abington people vote to see if they want it in their town.
Thank you very much.
And I don't know how the other,
I'm of the same opinion. That's it, absolutely, yeah. And if they don't, I actually have a petition article here for you to sign, so.
You only need 10, you only need 10
I only
to.
need 10 signatures.
Thank you. I'm sure that we will get more than 10.
There's a lawyer, we're gonna miss him.
Maybe not.
so
Well,
I guess
I
it's
think
up
we
to the
can-
other two who we haven't heard from yet.
I think we can pretty much assume you're against, and you're for and you're against, and we have no way of knowing the others. But
Well, I'll speak for myself. I happen to agree with Ken, and I live in that area. I live on Indian Brook Road, so Vineyard, you know, Bedford is right in front of me. But I also agree that we should let the Abington voters decide, and we have that opportunity to do that. And I agree with Ken that there should be one, but if the Abington voters decide, and it is up to the people to decide, and I've always believed in that, then I don't have a problem with that.
Any other, thank you, any other public comment? No? Any other public comment on any other issues coming before the board tonight? I mean, you'll have a chance if we do talk about it, I just wanted to get that out of the way. So, all right, so what does the board want to do? Do we want to follow the agenda, or do we want to go right into, we can actually, if you want to.
I think we should go right into this. and-
Why don't you folks stick around, because
Yeah,
we'll,
why don't we
just as a courtesy, we
Vote on what
will,
we want on this one.
if that's all right with the board.
Yeah, I
Yep.
think so,
Do
yeah.
we want to start with 12, or do we want to start with, and this is to,
We're not setting the warrant here.
we're not setting the warrant, but we could.
Correct? Rick, we're not actually voting on these articles tonight. We're just voting on these, some of these articles going to the planning board. Is that what we're doing?
Well, that's all that's specifically on there
The
to vote,
agenda.
but.
It's up to you.
But that's completely up to you if you want to make some of them.
So, will we set the warrant on the 23rd?
If not tonight, I would say the 23rd.
It's completely up to you. I mean, you could set, you know, if you can set
Some of 'em.
90%, get it done tonight, that makes our lives easier, just as easy, so.
Well, my question is, two of us aren't going to be on the board after the 23rd. Is it
Right.
going to be changed prior to town
Well,
meeting?
it certainly has to be done, you know, at the latest
It's
the
on the agenda, right?
23rd. We have to get this posted, we have to get it referred to the finance committee, has to be their job. So the more you can get done.
To be honest with you, I would have no problem having,
Better.
I would have no problem meeting every week now.
Yeah, I don't
We've
either.
got a lot of things to handle, so. And you have no problem either, right?
You know, the-
Yeah, so it is set the,
keeping in mind,
So, that's fine.
so I think it is on the, Kenny,
Take up number 8, can we take up number 8 on
Number
the,
8.
on the agenda?
on the agenda. We can
Oh,
do
I'm
that.
sorry, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
8 on the agenda.
On the agenda, which is set the special and annual town meeting warrants.
At least preliminarily, right? We can always
Yeah.
change it if we need to on the 23rd.
Absolutely.
All right, do we want to follow them in order, or do we want to just tackle 12,
Why don't we
13?
just do 12 and then, so they can leave if they want.
All right, so, Article 12 was the first one, right? Yeah. We're not even going to touch mobile storage pods yet.
Oh, jeepers.
To see the town will vote to ban the retail sale of marijuana. Town council language being drafted. So this is not, there'll be language in this, that's the general gist of the article.
To be included on the warrant.
To be included on the warrant.
I'll make that motion.
We have a
I'll
motion.
second that.
And we have a motion and a second to include on the warrant Article 12 that bans the retail sale of marijuana. And just let me reiterate that if this does pass the town meeting, it would have to go to to the
You
polls.
guys would have to call an election.
Would that be a special election, or could you do it at the next?
it would probably be done at the next regular.
Actually, it's up to the board.
Yeah.
And
Well,
Whitman-
no, but
Whitman
Women
did
has
a
a
special
special
election.
Women has a
Special
special
election.
election.
That's true.
It all depends if it, I would think that if it does pass at town, well, if the article, the ban does not pass, and the town wants marijuana, I would think you would want to do a special election to get the ball rolling if that was
Wait,
the case.
The cost of a special
Wait,
election
wait,
is, I
wait.
mean,
If you don't
can
ban
get
it, you
it
don't
on.
need a special election if you don't ban it.
No. Right, if you ban it, you need a special election.
Right, but if
Yeah,
this article was to fail at town meeting,
yeah,
you wouldn't
I'm
need a
sorry.
special election.
Correct, but if it was passed at town meeting, it would be then up to the Board of Selectmen when to call.
Right, and there's no,
if they
but
want.
is there a time frame that has to be done within a certain amount of days?
My
Do
opinion,
we
I
know
think you'd
anything?
want to do it sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
I don't think you'd want to wait until November or September. But
I've seen this
that's again, that's up
distribution's
to you
already
guys.
issuing
It's up to you
licenses,
guys.
so.
All right, so Article 12, we have a motion and a second. I'm just going to say, I was going to vote against it, but now that I know there's a petition article waiting, if it fails, I'm just going to vote for it, so. Motion, I shouldn't tell you how I'm going to vote ahead of time, but. Motion and a second to approve Article 12 with wording to follow.
Aye.
I,
Aye. Unanimous
So it will be on town meeting.
to ban.
There will be an article to ban marijuana on town.
But stay where you're seated. Article 13, to see if the town will vote to limit the number of retail establishments to 10% if the marijuana bylaw passes. Town council language being drafted. What that means is, the state will let you do up to 20% of your marijuana liquor licenses compared to liquor licenses, right?
Package stores.
Package stores.
Package stores. We only want, if this was to pass, and marijuana, pot shops are allowed in the town, the general consensus was, we
only wanted one.
wanted one. So that's what this article is. So if Article 12 at town meeting
Is it?
gets voted down, and the town says, we don't want to ban marijuana, selectmen are going to go move to Article 13 and say, well, if we only want one.
Let's limit it to just this.
Let's just limit it. So,
This is essentially the planning board's consistent with the planning board's package.
Yeah.
Yeah, so make no mistake, this is.
So, Dory, I was told, and I don't know if it's true, that it's 10% of the package store licenses that are available.
So-called common package store is the
Yes.
language.
So we have 4 now. Do we have more available, more package store licenses available? If some guy come in tonight and wanted to open a package store, is there a license available?
No, no.
We're
at our
only
limit.
allowed 4.
Right.
You'd have to petition the state for more.
No,
Is that
we've
the way it
got
works?
the
The
opinion from
The
verbal
population would
opinion
have to go up.
from town council that it's, the language, the terminology, common package store refers to all alcoholic, the number of available common,
Right.
all alcoholic package stores, and unless our population went up
Okay, but that was my point. There are no more available.
Correct, that's correct.
4 is our
There's
limit.
not one or two sitting around
Oh,
waiting
yeah,
to be
right,
issued.
okay.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, so we have,
Motion to allow Article 13 to go on the town warrant.
I'll second it.
a motion, second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous vote. Okay, now you folks can leave. Sorry. Do you have any other questions at all, or concerns, honestly? Yes.
Honestly, do you think that this one pot shop that may possibly come in, is that like getting your foot in the door and eventually it will be more and more?
No, I
No.
can't, that's what that vote was.
That's
just
what the vote is.
That'll be one.
Definitely.
But we did say we could amend it.
The selectmen could,
We should say that.
5 years from now, change it if they wanted to.
They could amend it.
A town meeting would have to amend it.
Would have to
It
go
would have to go
correct.
on the
Right,
warrant
it would-
and get a
yeah.
2/3 vote because it's a zoning article.
But
so-
isn't it, they can only have 20% at max?
No.
Yeah, yes.
If you adopt this particular bylaw. If you don't adopt this bylaw, then
Okay.
there's as many as want to come in can come in.
So, probably not. Thank you, folks, for coming out.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's not gonna pass. I mean, it's not gonna go back on the one, or they'll vote it down anyway.
All right, what do we want to do?
They'll ban it at town meeting.
We're in it, we might as well
Yeah,
finish
might
it.
as well finish that up.
I start
I
one.
really don't. I could be wrong.
Article 1, the yearly article to raise and appropriate transfer from available funds and appropriate from departmental sums necessary, this is a budget article. This is basically, the first couple of standard fare anyways, I believe, correct?
When are we doing?
One is the budget article.
Where is
We had approve Article 1 on the warrant.
Second.
Motion to second to approve Article 1, the budget article. For the discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Article 2, raise and appropriate from available funds the sum of, for salary item, actually,
What is that for?
this is, salary. Do we want to wait on ones that, well, Rick's not here now. This is
2,111.
probably a salary item one.
It's awful.
It may change.
I'm gonna hold off on 2.
You can hold off on it. That's fine.
And,
We pass over 2.
Yep, and Article 3, hey, Rick, we can use your help. Mr. Town Manager.
I'm sorry.
Article 3, the capital plan. Dory, do you know if that's is due to change, or is it etched in stone?
It's not etched in stone, but it's pretty solid.
It's pretty solid.
Yep. It probably won't change.
Want to just take a vote to put a capital plan article at Article 3 and leave the numbers?
Yeah, you're going to finalize it anyways on the
Yeah.
23rd. so-
Yeah.
Yeah, the numbers will be refined a little bit. I know, for instance, the
It's the
chief is
same
getting
before.
some updated numbers
We
on.
can- we
Can I just ask a question on number 3? Town Hall granite curbing. Didn't we get money from community preservation last year to do the curbing at Town Hall?
N-
Actually, that was the library. We did some curbing at the library.
Oh, yeah.
But it-
Um,
I'm sorry, it wasn't community preservation funding, though, it was
Oh,
capital
it
plan
wasn't? I
funding.
thought it was
No,
community preservation.
No, so last year was the library granite curbing, this year is town hall
Okay.
granite curbing.
Yes.
And we'll just skip on it, well,
Free cash.
Pass over.
I'll entertain a motion that Article 3 is put in there for capital plan.
Yeah, so moved.
Motion is made and seconded.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Article 4 is to establish the limits and establish the yearly article for the revolving funds.
Any changes to these at all?
Are those etched in stone, or they might change or be added?
No, the only thing that's changing is the building department revolving fund. There's, that is increasing, we hope, to the extent that we want to pay for an archiving program to essentially scan and archive to essentially create a space in the office and to get, I don't want to say, I'm sorry, I almost said get rid of, but to properly account for years and years of maps and documents that just need to be dealt with in a way that they're not stored in a way that's efficient at the moment, so. So we have approximately $50,000. Right now, we do have some bids out there from the different vendors on the state bid list. Right now, the range is essentially between $40,000 and $60,000 for an scanning archiving program, and perhaps to move to an e-filing system. So that's the bump in the building department, and that would all be paid for from fees.
What's the limit on that now, Rick?
It's currently at 70.
Right, and it does need to go up $5,000 to account, just to account for the current building inspection, part-time inspection that already happens, but the rest of it is an estimate for the archiving needs, the project that we're getting funding estimates for.
How much do they take in a year, do you know?
Well, this year, they've taken, I think they have approximately they have almost this amount of money right now, just as it stands right now in the fiscal year. This is especially with the activity that, I think the New England Art Building alone is bringing in huge fees.
Where does the extra money go if they supersede the total amount?
It stays in the revolving fund.
They just can't spend
It
it.
stays in the revolving fund.
And Andy, it's at 80 currently, not
80?
70, 80, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So,
Are you raising it to 85 then? Did you say
82.
that you wanted to add 5,000 to that?
And then the additional,
yes,
to
Then the additional to
135.
fund the other part?
Exactly.
yes.
So you want to raise that to 135,000?
Well, again, basically for, yes, to account
Be
for.
for a one-year rate.
Yes, for
a
an
one-year rate.
archiving project, correct.
So is that
We
the
don't wanna-
only way to do that? Can't
We
we?
don't want to pay for it out of the general fund. No, we don't want to pay for that out of the general fund.
We did 70,000 last year, that's what we had, 70,000, right?
80,000.
We had 80
Currently 80.
80,000,
I understated that. It's 80,000 currently, right, for the part-time staff.
and now it'll go up to 135.
Again, for
Well, the 50,000 for the
Per year,
scanning.
but still.
1 year, yes.
I'm opposed to that myself, so.
Do you want more backup on that, board members, or we all?
Again, we're not looking for blind faith here. It's not the intent here. The goal is not to pay for general fund for expenses related to, one-time expenses
One-time
related to
expense.
the office project. That's,
Yep.
But it, Rick, in that, I mean, I understand what you're saying. But in there, it doesn't say for, archives and stuff like that. It could go for other things, could it not?
well, it has to go for what it's intended for. I mean,
Well, I think
Right,
his point
but-
is it's not.
Not written down what
It
it's
doesn't say
intended for.
that.
that's what we have, internal controls, town accountant for, to make sure, and it has to pay for what it's intended to pay for.
Okay, but if there was more that had to be paid for, an additional inspector or assistant inspector, it could come out of that. It could come out of that.
Yes, but you still have to stay within your cap, and it's generating the fees to pay for itself. That's what a revolving fund, that's the intent of a revolving fund.
So,
You can't go over the cap still.
So know what might be helpful is if you have right now the revolving fund, where the money is coming from, the limits. It might be helpful if you put a column on there as to what the revolving fund is actually to be expended for, and then,
Yeah, it may be an issue where, let me speak to the town accountant and see if it may be helpful to break out a separate article even. I wonder if we can pay for a separate article with revolving fund revenue.
no, not even that. I think if just
it's-
one more column
I
on
just don't
here.
want to spend general fund revenue.
No, I understand, but
Or,
I'm just
that's all
talking
I don't wanna
for
do.
everybody's edification.
No.
put one more column on there saying this is what the particular revolving fund can be used for. Because that's not on there.
Because it doesn't say anything about archiving on that.
That's fine.
And there's gonna be
Well, it
questions.
doesn't
that
say, none of these say,
Sure.
it just says where the money is coming
Right.
from.
Yeah, so it
doesn't-
would just be clearer for each one of these funds if we understood the expenditures, what their intended expenditures are for.
When they were established, this is why they were established, so we could pay for,
I know when we set up the Board of Health fund for the compost site, we were required to explain exactly what the use
exactly,
is.
so when the article was adopted, or the fund was adopted, there must have been some language saying.
And they all have
that's what it was
numbers
to be
too, so I'm sure it should be pretty easy. You look up
Yeah.
Fund 041.
Yeah,
and
this is what it can be
We'll
used
add that to the building.
And just add that.
Thank you.
Sure, okay,
Let's hold
That's
off on
fine.
Article 4 then. Article 5 to see
that's fine.
what amount the town will vote. Obviously, we need to put
Basically,
a,
the purpose of the fund.
we need to put a number in here, but Article 5,
Yes.
I think we should just hold off on that. It was not
Hold
even-
off on that, too.
Yeah.
Yep.
This one here, Article 6, see if the town will vote to appraise and appropriate transfer of available funds, sum of $14,000 for student transportation service, Abington students.
We do this all the time.
Out-of-school district, VOTEC schools.
Yeah, that's a
We
routine.
have to do that.
Motion to accept number 6.
Second.
Motion made, second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Article 7,
This is the proposed amount that the conservation wants to expunge this year.
CPA,
Yeah. I'm sorry, Paul Malika will be in at your
At the next meeting.
I was gonna ask, I thought they were gonna give a presentation.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
hold
they're
off
gonna
on
come in
that.
on the
that.
23rd.
See if the town will borrow the sum of $600,000 to purchase and equip a new rescue, can't read it, engine to replace the Maxim fire engine currently on loan from the town of Bridgewater, from the fire chief.
Yes, and again,
Oh,
and that is intended to be a 10-year borrow as opposed to a lease purchase, which the interest on a lease purchase was going to be.
Can you have the accountant do the numbers if we were all to pay a one-time tax like we did on the ladder truck? I got a lot of good feedback on that.
Well-
People thought that was better, we saved a lot of money in interest, so I think that should be an option if the people want to pay it that way. I think that was roughly $100 per household.
Sure. It's a great deal if people want to vote for a debt exclusion, absolutely.
Capital exclusion. whatever.
Capital exclusion,
So could you get the numbers together for that, too? please?
absolutely.
this is not in the capital plan, though?
Because it's borrowing.
'Cause it's
Yes,
borrowed.
this is not, yeah, it's a borrowing article, right.
And you'd borrow that within the levy limit?
That was the intent, yes. Over, again, the chief had initially submitted this to the financial group as a lease purchase over 10 years, and the interest that was provided by the leasing company he was working with was exorbitant, so we had looked at it as just a, Sonia had done some numbers, as just a borrowing, a 10-year borrow, just through some of her financial, through the falling internal debt, and it was much more cost-effective to do it in that fashion. Obviously, as a one-time purchase would be much more cost-effective, but, the capital exclusion, getting the town to vote a capital exclusion,
Yeah,
it was
well- Done
in the
clearly more
past.
cost-effective, but,
Let's see what
so,
the numbers
Yeah,
show.
but
see
we'll
what the
certainly,
numbers
we'll
are.
certainly get the numbers,
I actually had 3 people mention that
Yeah.
to me.
yeah, but, so,
What the cost would be on an average assessed house and that sort of
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
We're gonna hold off on
Certainly.
Article 8.
Sure.
Article 9.
Well, again, I would certainly, certainly hold off, but I mean, to the extent that the funding source may be subject to discussion, but I'm sure the chief would certainly like to
He
see it
wants
on the
the
warrant.
article, he wants the article.
Yeah, I'd make a motion to put the article on. I mean, if we're borrowing a 1982,
Yeah.
and he told us a couple of years ago that we needed one. So.
Is that a motion?
Motion to include.
Second.
Motion is second to include Article 8.
If we don't go the capital exclusion route, it's going to be within the levy
It
limit
would just be
anyways.
borrowed
Right,
within the levy limit, correct.
With a possible change of funding on Article 8. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous vote. Article 9 is the yearly article, $5,000 for services provided to survivors of sexual assault and domestic violence in FY 2019.
Suppose we accept Article 9.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That's by petition anyway, so it has to be
Yes.
included.
It has to be included?
If it's a petition article, you have to include it on the warrant, yeah.
Okay. I thought we had a debate about that where it didn't. have to be.
Argue, come on,
We
argue
had,
over
we
it,
had
both of you
a,
argue.
we had some planning board articles last year that the planning board was proposing stuff, but not by, anything by petition, you have to include it on.
And why is that?
I think just by, is that by state law or?
State law, petition articles, you have to.
Actually, I think the charter says it too.
put 'em- yeah.
All right, Article 10 is just to hold a spot for the, we're going to discuss this later tonight. Article 11, this is a town council language being drafted to
Yes.
vote to eliminate mobile storage pods. Does anybody, we
What does that
hold off
mean?
on that? We discussed this at the meeting.
I know, I remember that, but
I haven't seen any wording yet of the article.
The town council is working on wordage to ban the use of storage pods like up on the end of Vineyard Road where the guy can use it as a shed forever up there and the neighbors are complaining.
Is it just residential, or is it commercial residential, or?
I think my request was for residential areas.
Thank you.
But also that if you need to get a permit, you can get a permit for one for 30 days.
Right. For temporary use,
Yeah,
right.
whatever. I mean, we're not
Yep.
banning them from the town, but it just has to be permitted and you can't use it permanently in your yard
Okay.
as a shed.
So the people that have them currently, and if you start looking around, there's a lot of them in town. They would be grandfathered in or no?
No.
That's, okay, I'm just.
We'll see what
I know,
town
yeah,
council
There
comes
are,
up with.
I think in our discussion, we didn't want that, but
They're not
you have, make a good
You know,
point.
I never even noticed it until we talked about it
Well-
in a meeting, and I know, there's someone on 123 that has two in their yard.
Yeah,
They're not
You know, and they're
garages.
obviously using them for storage, but, so that's just something to
that's
think
a
about.
highway commercial zone too, but it's a residential
Just
house,
something,
so
just
I don't
something to
know.
think
We'll see
about.
what town council comes up with.
All right, Articles 14 through 26 are planning board articles. You want to hold off on those?
Please.
Yeah, see as how we don't know what they are.
Right. 27,
These are amended?
these are the petition ones that we have
Petition
here.
articles.
We haven't had a
We
chance to
have to
read
allow them
those.
anyhow, right?
They have to be included on the warrant, yeah.
We have nothing to say about it.
Oh, we have some, we can say it.
say
We
anything
can
you want,
say it. So let's include Article 27, 28.
I haven't even read them yet.
No, but
27.
You have to include them, so.
Okay,
At some point, you guys will take a vote on whether or not you think it's
right or wrong.
right.
Okay.
what articles are those? 27, 28,
27, 28,
28.
29.
and 30? It was 4 of them,
30,
wasn't it?
yeah.
40. All right,
30.
one motion for all those since they're petition articles.
Motion to adopt them all.
Not
I mean,
adopt them all.
Motion to
include.
present them in the warrant.
We have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion?
I, no. Can't wait.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
We're going to talk about all these again coming up
Oh,
at our next meeting, right? Only because I think a lot of these may be petition articles might be taken up by the planning board as well.
And changed or
Yeah.
reworded or,
Happens all the time.
Yeah, and I'm just not comfortable with the whole
like
process here as far as
There's
how
a
these are
few
getting.
repeats in there too.
Yeah, and the way I think that some of this stuff is actually being presented, I just have a big problem with.
the special town meeting articles, I mean, more than half of the 7 total, I think more than half of them have numbers that are blank. Do we want to act on any of them, or we want to hold off on those for now? Most of them are unpaid bills, right, or
Well, yeah, yeah.
current year?
Yeah, Article 1 is the only unpaid bill at the moment.
But they may change.
Yes, Article 2 is not going to change, and the rest are,
Fluid.
I think, maybe a little,
Hopefully Article 4, we're not going to get any more snow.
Actually, they're talking about snow.
yeah, every time I say that with the Finance Committee, something happens, so I've agreed not to use that word with the Finance Committee every Wednesday night.
Well, let me just ask the board, do we want to act on these now? Do them one by one like we did before?
I personally wouldn't want to act on anything that's blank dollar value.
It's a little,
Okay.
I think, yeah,
That's
this
my
can only-
opinion.
There's only
Article 2.
7 articles.
Yeah.
You want to wait?
Yeah, it's kind of your standard
Okay,
special town meeting article format. This could
that's fine, so
wait till
then,
next week.
that finishes
2
number
weeks.
8. Article 2 of the agenda, approval of March 12, 2018 open session minutes. About the executive session now. We were all at the meeting.
Move we approve the open session.
Second?
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Executive session, same date.
Move we approve not to be released until all matters are resolved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of Abington Little League Parade, April 21st, 2018. This is a yearly thing. The parade will begin at Abington Police Station parking lot on Central Street and proceed up Plymouth Street to Plymouth Street Field, beginning at 11 a.m. on Saturday, April 21st. Robert Durston, President of the Abington Little League. We have a motion on that.
Motion to approve April 21st, 2018, for the parade for the Abington Little League.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. I'll approve as long as Mr. Burbine will probably be his last official act. He should throw out the first pitch. Well, they invite any board members to join along the parade route and say a few words at opening ceremonies.
We'll be away that.
Oh, how convenient. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous. Discussion on Abington CAM. I brought this forward and I asked for certain documents. I know that we had the head of Abington CAM, the president, I believe, or the chairman of the board of directors, whatever he wants to call himself, at a meeting, and it seemed like after he left, there was still a lot more unanswered questions than were answered, and some of the information that was received by him did not seem to match up with what we know. It's an email from one of our appointment, I believe, on the board. Lisa Bezanson, who was in the audience, sent, I believe she sent all board members an email with some of her concerns, and they have personally become some of my concerns too. So basically, I asked this to be on the agenda because I don't know what we can do as a Board of Selectmen, if anything. I know it talks about Board of Selectmen can appoint their member or get rid of their member, and the school committee can appoint their member or get rid of their member. But I know that Mr. Burbine, lawyer Burbine, that's not a derogatory term in this case.
Usually is.
No,
I was just going to say that.
it is not, but I know that he drew up some of their bylaws to help Abington CAM when it first started. And just for point of clarification, Abington CAM is the Community Access and Media. They're the ones that operate the Abington cable through all ratepayers. If you have cable, whether Verizon or Comcast, a certain percentage, a small percentage goes into their account, and it pays for the new studio, the very expensive new studio, it pays for your broadcast, and it pays the salary, I think, of at least one full-time employee. I'm just kind of give you a quick rundown of what it is. And the board of directors, I think, is made up of, well, Andy, can you just?
Five members.
5 members. And I don't know, I think I only know 2 of the members.
Lisa?
Well, it's
Mr. DiCarlo is-
my understanding now that there are no members except Lisa and Henry DiCarlo. The corporation has not filed annual reports since 2011. They've not filed taxes since 2011. I'm not even sure if the corporation is still valid. And there have been several things that have happened that are against the bylaws. One,
Their bylaws.
their bylaws.
Their bylaws.
One particular thing that struck me was, according to the bylaws, donation of equipment required approval by the Board of Directors and the Board of Selectmen. See Article 6, Section 8. This was in an email to all of you. So when Henry was here, he said he donated the old equipment to Massasoit Community College. He also said that they had board meetings for this. And Lisa has spoken to the people that he mentioned that were on the board, and they are not on the board. And one of them in particular, actually 2 of them, have not even been invited to a meeting in 5 years. So another bylaw states you cannot be, although the state says you can be president,
President, treasurer.
treasurer, everything. The Abington CAM bylaw says you cannot. So Henry is the president, self-appointed president, it appears, the treasurer, and everything else. I have a real concern that this nonprofit and the corporation is not in existence anymore. So it's going to be my suggestion that we have town council look into this on how the Board of Selectmen can reestablish Abington CAM with the new board of directors and what needs to be done. There's got to be something this board can do. I don't know who else would do it. It's the ratepayers of this town that are paying the money for this. And it just, unfortunately, isn't being run the way it's supposed to be.
So Abington CAM is considered a corporation.
Yes.
All residents of the town of Abington and organizations based in the town are eligible for membership in this corporation. So that means that everyone listening on TV, everybody can be a member of this
Yeah,
corporation.
you have to actually click on their website and sign up to be a member of it.
Right.
So there is a membership list,
There is.
I would imagine. There must be.
There's,
We
must
don't
be
know who
somewhere.
that- It just seems, I don't know, it's tough. It's tough to, and
Did
I
you get
agree.
in touch with Mr. DiCarlo at all about this?
I did not.
I have not. I got in touch with him initially after the first meeting and just mentioned that the concerns, but in general, but I know there's been a follow-up email that I saw that you're referring to, Alex, and I haven't spoken to him. You know, and I did forward the end of the week, the bylaws, because at Ken's request to town council, and asked the essential question as to what authority the selectmen may have in light of the bylaws, which again, I know after the initial appointment, which presumably were made in 2012 by the Board of Selectmen, the School Committee, and the Cable Advisory Committee, what authority exists in the Board of Selectmen.
Have you heard back from?
No, that was just, again, literally Friday,
Friday.
so it's a
Would
little
you
bit.
forward the emails that
No,
were sent? Would
I
you
will-
forward the emails that Lisa sent
I
to
would be
the
happy
town
to do
council
that.
also?
I haven't, but I will do that, because obviously, it does create a dilemma, and, you know, without, other than the Board of Selectmen, who would there, what other authority would there be? On the other hand, again, after the initial appointments, but if there isn't, or I'm sorry, if there aren't members established to make subsequent appointments as the bylaws dictate, it seems like it's no man's land.
Well, when it was first established, I remember a membership, and people were joining, so I imagine there's a membership list out there.
Okay.
That Abington CAM has. There is a provision in here that allows for 10% of the members to call for a meeting. So if.
We can get a member
If we
list.
could get the
Membership
list.
Yeah, if we could, yeah. But I don't think it's a bad idea to have town council, maybe
Yeah.
have town council, Lisa and Henry, you all sit down.
I'd be
and
happy
see
to
if you can't
facilitate that if that's.
Figure out how to get this back
Be happy to do
in
that.
place, and just so you know, there was a point in time when when I was on there initially where the annual reports had not been filed, and they filed them and brought
Right,
them up
we
to date.
we
So
saw
that can be,
that.
that can be
And
done.
annual
That can be done.
reports is not a big thing.
No,
I mean,
but it should be done.
It is,
should be done.
but,
It should be done.
you know,
It's a requirement of all corporations.
It is. but that's not the biggest issue.
Yeah, the issue is if they're not
A
meeting.
lot of issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing too is if,
The issue is
wait, hold on a second, please, 1 second, Lisa. Could we contact the school committee and see who their representative is and make sure that they appoint one? So then there'll be 3 members.
Well, once again, I think I should speak to town council first, because the bylaws call for an initial appointment that would have gone back to 2012. So I don't want, I'm confused by what authority anybody would have anymore.
Well, the school committee has authority on their member.
Well, they had authority for an initial appointment according to the bylaws,
Yeah, but I
after which
think
time the
said
members
that
established through this membership list then have authority for subsequent appointments. Because after initial appointments, again, this is how I read the bylaws, but I don't consider myself
Well, the selectmen have a continuous appointment every 3 years.
I don't think that's what it says, but again, I don't have the,
Lisa, you want to come up? And-
I don't know if that,
Three
I
shall
don't
be
know.
appointed by the board,
Lisa
by the...
Lisa Bezanson is our
Selectmen.
representative on Abington Camp.
Let me,
You were
We
appointed,
should have...
could be right, Alex, I just
Just
don't,
three.
Lisa, you were appointed not that long ago, right? Or a year ago?
Could
It
be
was
right.
actually July 18,
Can we
2016.
could be right.
2016.
This
That was
July,
the
will be
And
initial
how many
years.
meetings have you
I
gone
think
to?
that's changed.
I have never been invited to a meeting.
Okay.
And can I just say what I was going to say over there is that,
Absolutely.
as I see it, one of the biggest issues is that they have not filed tax returns since 2011.
It's an issue too. Yes, if that has not happened, that's an issue.
Yes. And there's a difference between members and directors. They have 5 directors, 3 of which would be treasurer, secretary, and president, and then 2 others.
Yep.
The members are the people
Right.
that actually pay their franchise fee every month.
Actually, all residents of the town of Abington can be a member.
Right.
It doesn't even say in here that you have to pay
Yeah.
anything.
And I don't know where I saw it, I only saw it one time. I think there were like 697 members or something like that.
How many?
So they appointed.
697.
Really?
I'm not sure, I don't know where I saw that, but,
I had heard over 600 also, I don't...
I think years ago I signed up, but I don't think
Yeah.
I
I did.
received
Yeah.
anything, so.
that wasn't my focus when I was researching this. So, now the problem is that although the members could get together, 10% of them, and have a quorum, to vote 4 new directors in, there are no directors to do a 3/5 vote to vote more in.
So we need clarification on that.
Yeah, so, yeah, so why is the
I
problem?
mean, I am sure, every town,
Yeah.
right, in the state has this?
Yes.
So I'm sure that
If they want.
town, yes, exactly. So I'm sure town council
It's
must
not
have dealt
for-
with this before.
Yeah.
I would hope, I should.
I think you're right, Ken. The way I read the bylaws, the selectmen have one appointment, and the school committee has another appointment.
We have 3.
Always.
Initially, we had
Initially, we had 3.
But
Okay.
in number 4, in hold on a minute. Under section 2, any vacancy on the board of directors shall be filled by the board of directors until the next scheduled election, except that appointed directors shall be replaced by the appointing authority. That would be us.
Yeah, but that's just
We only have the
one
appointing
It's the
of
initial.
one.
That's me.
We're only,
That's Lisa.
Lisa's the only one we
School
appoint.
committee has
Yeah.
Have to be.
one, which I
Okay.
think was Brenda
All right,
Pignon
so
when I
after
was
the
on.
initial, there's 3, and then after the
Three
initial, there's only
offices.
1. And the rest is supposed to be filled, okay.
School committee appoints one, we appoint one, and then the other 3 are
I got
elected
you.
by the membership.
The whole purpose of the bylaws is to have it operating in place, a way for the system to work, and it's not
But
working.
just back to your point, I think if you have Henry who's on there, you have Lisa who's on there, if the school committee appointed another member, that would give you 3 out of
Okay.
5. That would at least give you a quorum that you could do your business. Call a meeting to elect the other 2 members.
That's true.
Right?
From me talking to one person on the school committee, they knew nothing about this, so I'm assuming they haven't appointed anyone in years.
Probably not for a long
Sure.
time.
That was my point about contact
No,
the
I
school
think you're
committee
right.
and get it,
I'd be
another
happy to
member.
do that.
Yeah.
Happy to-
I'd run it by town council just to make sure, but I think
Sure.
that's the way to maybe solve it. At
Sure.
least you'd get 3 of you and
Get a meeting,
get a meeting, and then you could appoint, you guys can elect the other 2.
Very good.
and elect a chairman or,
I don't.
And then hold your annual meeting in October like you're supposed to do with members and
Yeah.
Okay.
file your tax returns.
Good.
good?
Very good.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention, Barry.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Well, no, you don't.
Okay. Discussion on surplus land.
Boy, Jim's been waiting out here for...
No, he was gone for a while.
Oh, you did, okay.
This has been an ongoing thing, and I know it's a lot to, the surplus land committee, led by Jim, did a great job, and a lot of properties were determined to be surplus. So, it is a big undertaking, it's been a big undertaking. So I know that Dory helped and Jim helped and did some maps at the last meeting, I think. We got some copies here. There was a separate list that went to conservation, and that's been on their agenda a couple of times. And Jim, do you want to come up to the microphone and maybe at least go over the conservation, what happened tonight, if anything, at the conservation meeting? I know that there were some properties that the surplus land committee thought were conservation and fell into the conservation's jurisdiction, so we gave that to them to see if they agreed. How do I do?
Okay, back when we gave the list to the Board of Selectmen, we gave you 5 lists.
I'm sorry.
One list was land declare surplus and sell or dispose of. Another list was recommended for Conservation Commission review. Another list was recreation land, existing conservation land, and action, properties that had no action taken. We listed approximately 55 properties that we could possibly put back on the tax rolls. Some of these properties abut or have some wetlands on them, but they weren't all declared wetlands. So for that reason, we kind of just separated out. They can file a notice of intent if they buy the land and go through that process. The various bylaws in town all apply. Whereas with the Conservation Commission's list, those were all wetlands. Essentially 100%, where you couldn't do anything with them. And tonight I went through the entire list with them, property off of Diane Circle, Vineyard Road, and a few others that are large areas. And they're gonna go through the process and review it. I don't think they'll have anything for annual town meeting, but there's a lot of information for them to digest. A lot of those properties that they have were either deeded to the town, and some were actually tax title. All the land on Diane Circle is all deeded to the town, the same as with Vineyard Circle, or Vineyard Farm. All those properties up there were all deeded to the town. I have all my information that we used at the surplus committee meetings, so I'm going to give Kenny the copy of the originals. This is what we went through. This all came from the assessor's office on their vision program, and it shows you all the lots, everything that we had pertaining to assessments, pitches, aerial photos, everything like that that you could possibly use. That was all in our packet that we reviewed.
I would personally like to tackle some of these, not necessarily tonight, but to get them on, there is the play card on the town, the warrant. I'd like to put some of them up, get town meeting approval to sell them. It's a big undertaking to do them all at once, but I'd like to take some of them. Just got to decide which ones to take and how to break it apart, the list.
I was under the impression that that approval already been done when they brought it before our town meeting last year. It was all declared surplus.
Yes, it was
They
declared
were,
surplus, but now you have to go to town meeting to approve the sale of that.
Sale and disposition.
It's a multiple-step process.
Okay.
It is.
I do know that it's got to be, public auction.
Actually, I think Rick can touch upon that. I had asked, at our last meeting, we had asked for
it not?
some
Oh,
assessors
RFP on
values.
it.
Well, there's different options. Auction is one, RFP, I mean, it's a.
Let's talk about that, but we had asked for assessors, approximate value of some of these properties, and don't be deceived, those ones that are valued at $2 million are the 2 schools on the list. And then we had asked Rick to maybe check with some of the towns, because Alex had brought up what they do in Brockton, which he thought was a good idea, but then I guess it turned out being not that good of an idea. But Rick, you check with some other towns to see how they handle this?
Yeah, and, everybody, different towns do it, have different methods, but generally, when it comes to, postage stamp lots, you have towns that might group them together for auctions and use private auctioneers, and then I have names of a couple different auctioneers that some of the towns use. For larger lots, they would generally go out with RFPs on an individual basis, because they would have obviously specific value that would be, specific to a particular a cause, or, obviously have value for different purposes. Obviously, if they're, obviously commercial lots, but I don't think that's, what we're talking about in this particular case. If they have particular value, or if they have, if there's something quirky about them, they may, a lot of my peers in their towns would utilize their own town council if there's, if they have, if they're, have specific issues. But for the most part, on just smaller lots, they would go to an auction house, private auction houses that would, that deal with municipalities. And as I say, I have some names of some of them. I know Mr. Conley probably has heard of some of these himself, but.
Well, most of these properties would only really be, the only people who would be interested would be the abutters, and they would be notified, correct?
In some of these, the abutters only, but there are
Yes.
some that, could be open to anyone.
No, absolutely,
Yes,
but
yes, and obviously you do want to be careful though, too,
Right.
because and I know Jim and I were speaking earlier too, and there was some cautionary notes about you want to be careful when you advertise, and you want to be careful that you don't want to be creating lots in neighborhoods that potentially give people the opportunity to change the nature of their neighborhoods.
And that's one of the things with Diane Circle that you have to be careful with, because that's an R30 zone. All the house lots up there are all half acre. So they don't have the 30,000 square feet. If they bought the abutting property to expand their holdings, then they could be in the R30 zone and go accordingly. Or whether or not, when it's sold, it'd be sold with the restriction that it'd be add-on to the existing properties and
Now-
not built upon.
Sure, now obviously it diminishes the value of what people might be buying as an abutter.
Yep.
So you get it on the tax rolls, and it might not add a tremendous amount of value, but it obviously adds to the quality of one's, home and property in the neighborhood, and gets something of value back on the tax rolls, but, but it obviously diminishes the value of what the town would get, but it's,
I mean, Alex, you know of one person up there, Diane Circle, that was interested in buying a
Yeah,
abutting
one of the
property.
neighbors is a
So, I mean, that might be a good case to, kind
Sure.
of feel out. But there are some properties that are going to have some unique situations that you're going to have to deal with on a legal end. And one of them is up off of Walker Lane, which is a very unusual situation because it goes back to when the house was originally built. Where they located their garage and their driveway is on town property. So they've been using it for the past 30, 40 years. And it's not on the tax roll. So that's a unique situation you'd have to kind of carefully step around. And that's the first one on the list there.
yeah, well, it's not gonna be the first one we take up, that will be that.
No, but it's something that, keep it in mind that there is some situations here that you're
Yep.
going to have to deal with on a legal avenue.
Well, I guess the biggest question is, how do we want to tackle this list? Do we want to do just 55 properties? Do we want to do 10 at a time? Do we want to do 20 this town meeting? Do we not want to do any? A lot of work's been done mostly by Jim to get this stuff discovered,
Well, what's your suggestion, Jim?
Well, first of all, the first two need to have the correct lot number on it. It's map 29, lot 77, and map 29, lot 101. So make sure your paperwork says that.
Oh, yeah,
does,
you
yeah.
change it, yeah.
We brought that up back a year and a half ago.
Yep, no, that's correct here. If it's...
I would think that since the town already declared them surplus, go through the process and present all of them to be sold. I don't know if you want to get into discussion about putting restrictions on the property on town meeting. I don't know how that process will go.
I just think that's got... you open
I
up a
mean,
whole
take
can
like
of
the
worms.
old water department building. What can you use it for?
Right, but the problem is, if you have 55 properties on town meeting floor, and everybody's gonna question them all, that's why I think I'd like to just do a few, not a few, but, maybe a dozen or 20 at a time.
Well, you can lump all the ones at Diane Circle. There's,
Exactly.
17 lots
Yep.
up there that takes care of that, the bulk.
that's a good point.
If it's,
Very good
how
point.
about this? Bob Manning has shown a lot of interest in this, he wanted it on the agenda, and he's talked about, getting the ones that are the biggest, or the most money makers, or different things. How about if Bob and I just take, let's say, a third of the properties on here, and earmark them for this town meeting, go and get approval from the board before we do it? I mean,
Can you come up with a list before the next meeting?
Yeah.
And show them on the map.
We'll show them on the map. We'll make
We're
a
gonna need
packet.
maps for town meeting, too.
We'll make a packet. Is that all right Bob, with you, Bob? And we meet with Jim, you know, do it, another member of the Surplus Land Committee, and
That's fine.
just, if that's agreeable to the board and Bob?
I'm okay with it.
Whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And could you, when you highlight the
What else do you
map,
want us
could
to
you make it perfectly clear so people
Yeah.
can see, okay, this lot is on Diane?
That's one of the problems, is coming up with information where people can look at a map.
Yeah.
That's extremely hard.
It is.
It was tough enough going through the process of getting this information.
But the homeowners living next to it will understand it.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably gonna be who's gonna want most of these lots.
I mean, things like, you know, when you're talking like Diane Circle, the road can never be completed.
Right.
There's so many issues up there that, you know, just prevents it. So what do you do with the land? The only thing it has value to is the existing homeowners.
Right.
So we'll try to sit down and try to do about a third of the properties, get them out of the way, you know. Maybe the ones that don't require that much work since we're running out of time. But then the next one, we'll have plenty of time for town meeting. All right?
And Jim, the Conservation Commission has a whole separate list, right?
That's separate, yeah. They're not going to have anything for this annual town meeting.
Yeah.
Maybe next year they'll go through and review all the information they have,
Okay,
because there's a lot for them to digest.
Yeah. great,
But they now have it, and they're going to be working on it.
thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
You did a lot of work on this, again.
There's a lot here, but it's, you know, it's tough when you look at it and you say, well, 55 pieces of property, or 57 pieces of property, you know, what's this one, what's that one, and you're jumping back and forth.
Yeah.
You have to start from the top and work your way one at a time, going down.
That might be one of the things that we do, the three of us get all in the same part of town or something, so it's easier on a map.
It's
so people
easier,
will see.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so
That makes sense.
we'll be in touch soon, all right?
Status of DCR buying Precky's property.
I don't have a great update, other than they were still tracking down the family in the Ukraine. But the most up-to-date status, I'll have to get back to you.
Okay.
But that was the fundamental
There are
problem.
two properties that used to belong to Mr. Parecki that we recommended that the Conservation Commission take under their control. One of them is the front portion of land from Chestnut Street going back into the property that connects into the 45 acres. It's part that goes along Deacon's Brook. And the other one parcel is a Rock Island that the assessors have information on. So those two properties they're going to be dealing with.
But you wanted to name it the,
I
Jim
think,
Dombrowski
no,
Green
Ellen wanted to buy it. She wanted her own island.
all right.
I'd buy it, but I can't get out there to fish. I still got to have a key to the gate.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, but just let me know what you want to do. You want it? You want the information?
No, hang on to it for now, we're gonna get together.
You guys will all
Boy,
meet.
I was hoping to get
This
rid of
won't
it.
be,
No, it's yours. Hang on to it.
Thanks a lot.
no, we're not getting off that easy. 6, refer proposed sign
Thanks, Jim.
bylaw.
Thank
The
you.
planning board for review. Mr. Burbine is on this proposed, on the
So
sign
is
bylaw.
Mr.
committee.
So is Mr. Manning.
Mr.
I was thinking
Manning.
Mr. Manning might want to take this.
Wow, this is a lot.
Well, we're meeting with the town council, well, it's two, it's doubled up, so.
There's two of them.
The old one and the new one?
But we're meeting with town council, hopefully for what will be our final meeting on Wednesday night, to review this, I think, which is pretty close to what our final draft will be. So, once we have that, I can, if we vote on it Wednesday night, I can send it to you, and then you can send what will be the final draft to the planning board.
And their last hearing is May 7th date. Okay, fair enough.
Which gives them time to have the open meeting.
Okay, very good. So you,
So if you want to, I don't know,
You
should
wanna
we
vote
take
to
a vote tonight to
yeah,
send?
you do that, and we'll send it right over on Wednesday or Thursday, whatever, as soon as we get it from you.
So the motion would be when the bylaw is complete, to
send out
refer it to
our
the planning
final
board for
version to
review.
the planning board?
Excellent.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made in second, any further
Should we
discussion?
do that? Should both of us do that?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Abstentions? I'm just kidding.
You put a lot of work into
Refer zoning petition article to the planning board for review. Is that, we don't have them here though, do we? No.
Those are in the warrant, the
Those
petition
are on the
articles.
warrant.
Yeah.
That's the
Okay.
petitioner.
Do we have to vote that?
The petitioner said it was required.
Oh, the petitioner.
To put it, to refer to the
Petitioner?
planning board for review.
Who's the petitioner?
All those letters.
Probably, well, it probably does have.
I'm not sure what happens if you don't, but
Now, did that petition have 10 signatures on it? Okay.
they were legally,
I just want to make sure it wasn't one person.
Each one had 10
legally,
signatures?
legally valid petition articles, yes.
Sure they were. Lawyers, they stick together.
No.
No, not always. There's division amongst them
We
too.
just received,
What fun would it be if lawyers all stuck together?
No, exactly.
Yeah?
today we just received 4 zoning petition articles by a petition by 10 people, so we have to automatically put that on the warrant. Since they're zoning articles, we're going to refer them to the planning board to take a look at it and make recommendations on, so I'll entertain that motion.
So motioned?
And
Second.
Is there a second? There is a second. I think there might be some discussions, or any discussion on this?
Well, I thought we were going to discuss it at our next meeting, but I do have, again, I just have some, I know we have to send them, I know the petition articles, I just have some concerns on.
You hesitated, you didn't really want to say anything, but
No, I do, but I just think the way that our zoning bylaws have been changed in the last 2, 3, 4 years, I think, is not serving the town very well. I think it's serving particular people
Interests, yes.
well, but it's not serving the overall town very well. And I think maybe what we should consider, and maybe with the planning board, is to do a comprehensive review of the zoning bylaw in this town. Because this zoning here, zoning there, let's change it to suit one particular person's needs, is not a good way to be zoning the town. And that's how we're doing things at this point in time. To the point now where we have petition articles, 4 of them, for, I think, at least 1 or 2 of them for particular situations in the town to try to help certain entities or individuals. And I don't, again, I don't think that's good. Town council has said that the zoning, at one of our signed bylaw meetings, she said the zoning bylaw in this town is very, very difficult to deal with. It's very, very difficult to deal with. And we're going to be doing a master plan, correct? The planning board is going to be doing a master plan?
Correct.
As part of their master plan, why couldn't they take this up and say, let's put the brakes on all these zoning articles for right now? The pot one not included in this, but.
Of course not.
But, and let's put the brakes on for a year and do a comprehensive zoning bylaw review. And
Similar
see-
to what you did with the signs.
Exactly, similar to what we did.
And Lisa can tell you more than I can, our zoning bylaws are by far the worst of any town that we worked in.
Right, we should be business friendly, and this is not business
No,
friendly.
and it just,
It's not resident friendly either.
No, it's not.
one thing
It's not
says
friendly at all.
one thing in one section and something else in another section. It's just been added and added and added, and they're a mess. We've been before zoning boards in Quincy and Braintree and Rockland and all over, and ours are the worst by far. So I agree with Andy. I think it's time that we do a comprehensive review and update the zoning bylaws.
Make them workable.
And make them workable, readable
What's
and
amazing is,
workable.
it's like, this is like one of your last meetings together, and you guys are getting along and agreeing on everything tonight.
We agreed on more than
not over
people
yet.
thought we would in the
Not
last
over
3
yet.
years.
That's probably true.
Well,
I
we
agreed
have,
with him more than I did with Mike Franny for 6 years.
we have some significant zoning that we have to do, you know, one way or the other, between the
Yeah.
marijuana retail establishment, the sign bylaw, which has been a work in progress for the better part of a year. Those are significant.
2 years.
Those are significant. And again, I'm not a zoning expert, certainly not a planning expert, don't claim to be. That's enough for 1 year. And again, I hope whomever is submitting these doesn't take offense to that, because he or she may have put a lot of time into this, but this is a lot to throw at citizen, you know, boards and committees that have to review all this.
With a month to go to town.
That's an awful lot to
That
throw
may
at
have been
people.
the intent, unfortunately.
That's not fair. And again, even if it's well-meaning, it's just not fair. So,
I would just like to speak to what I've learned over the last year and a half of involved in the bylaws of the zoning. I came in as a novice and tried to understand and read what was being said, and there was no way without asking questions time and time again, which I think sometimes irritated some of the members, but I just think we needed to have clarification to understand what we're trying to vote on and what we're trying to build. And in the last 4 or 5 or 6 town meetings, I've noticed time and time again, some edits being done to one thing or another. And when you look at the massive amount of work that takes to do these things, and listen to lawyers who I respect and their opinion, and they say that we need to do these things, I really come to say that I second Andy and Alex's comments that it's time to maybe put the brakes on what we're doing here and actually make an attempt to clarify and simplify what we have on our regulations for the planning and zoning boards, and make sure it's a relatively easily understood document, as opposed to what we've been dealing with for over a year and a half, which is complicated, convoluted definitions that don't even apply to the document in some cases, and just makes life tough for everybody. And I believe in business friendly, as Alex has used the term, I believe, and I think Ken's used the term. I think it's really important that this town be business friendly, given the fact that we do have a number of vacant commercial businesses in this town, and we do have a lot of vacant lots that haven't been developed. And I think if our rules were clearer and easy to understood, maybe it would be simpler to do business in this town. So I just want to step up to that and say that. So it's taken a lot to get to where we got to with this document. I salute all the members of my planning board for all the work they put into it, for the bylaw committee, because it really has been an industrial effort to get to where we got to. And I'm proud to say that I'm a part of it. I know I joined as a novice when I signed up for this, but I learned a lot more about zoning laws than I ever thought I would in a year and a half, so.
So then, I would suggest that, well, probably wait till after town meeting, but after town meeting, the board should appoint a committee to start reviewing.
Well, I think you might want a professional, right?
No,
Yeah, I think you're gonna need a
So I don't know
professional.
if you're gonna wanna, even if you might wanna contemplate an article with some money appropriated to hire a professional to actually do some kind of comprehensive, I don't know what that would cost.
You could start doing some homework on what other communities have done in
Yeah.
recent years. Again,
Town council could probably
it's probably
help
been
you out,
about 15 years since I've been through it in another community, so I don't know what
But you've gone through it.
planning efforts cost these days for
Yeah.
a zoning, comprehensive zoning review, so, but we can do some homework on that. And
That would be good, I think.
Right, and if there's a lot of discussion about these articles and, the sign bylaw and other articles, zoning articles, looks like there's gonna be a lot of them, maybe if they know that we're gonna be redoing, they may wanna put the
Exactly.
halt on
That-
some of these ones that we're
that would be-
discussing now.
that would be my hope,
So
yeah.
I think we should definitely put an article in for,
Does 2 weeks give you enough time to do some research on that? or-
yes, we will make it a point to do some research on that.
Find out how much it'll
How much it
cost.
might cost
yeah.
and what the process would be, yeah.
we'll entertain a motion to include an article on the warrant for.
Do you wanna wait till they come back with it?
I think we should put an article in anyways, though.
For a comprehensive review? Maybe you don't know what the cost is.
Yeah. Well, we don't know.
Pending-
A lot of it
pending
has
the,
to
Do it anyway.
Yeah, we should do it anyway, so.
That's fine.
Motion,
I'm on-
motion to add to the warrant
An article.
an article to look into redoing the zoning and planning board rules.
Comprehensive review of
Comprehensive
the
review of
zoning
the zoning bylaws,
Be good.
because they need to be done.
Excluding the sign bylaw, because we've already done that.
Yes.
Perfect.
Very
I love that, excluding the sign bylaw, because it's already been done.
All right, so Bob made a motion,
Second.
and Andy seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, another unanimous vote, wow. All right, I actually skipped this over. We have a map in front of us. Well, number 9, we did that, right? We got an
Yes.
update on the plan
Yes,
for
you
it, so. Before the town manager's report, we have a map here. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you come to the microphone? I'm sorry. And this is relevant to,
Yeah. I'm not bringing the microphone to you. You're too young.
the sign bylaw on?
Don't do that.
Yes, okay. Yep.
I'm sorry,
That's right.
it just went by so quick, it just got me that if you're going to have a professional come in and review the bylaws, maybe you don't want to exclude the sign bylaws because they've already been done. You don't want to leave that untouchable. if they are going to review the rest of the bylaws, maybe that should be included as well, to revisit it and see if maybe something with the new zoning needs new signage as well.
I take your point, but we spent a year and a half doing the sign bylaw.
On the signs?
With the assistant of town council.
Oh, okay.
But by the time this comprehensive review gets done, it's gonna be part of the bylaws, it's gonna be researched anyway, the way I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to them looking at the sign bylaw, that's hopefully is gonna be adopted at this next town meeting, but
Yeah.
I don't know if that's gonna cost extra money either, I don't know, I don't know what the cost would be.
Maybe not to specifically look at the sign bylaws, but not to exclude it.
Just to make sure it's
If there
integrated
is-
properly.
Yeah, yeah.
If there is a zoning change, like
Integrated
say,
properly into.
what do you call it, the vegetative buffer, say that was changed and that affected the way a sign sat in the
Yeah, I don't-
vegetation. I think you don't want to leave it untouchable.
No, it's not untouchable, that's for sure.
Because it wouldn't be comprehensive if we
Was
left
it-
if we left
If you
something.
excluded the signs, then,
That's fine.
not to diminish your efforts.
No, I understand.
I didn't realize that that much had gone into the signs.
That's just the sign, so you can imagine what the zoning bylaw would, to have
Yeah.
Yeah,
a
it's gonna be a couple of
volunteer
years.
committee
Yeah,
to do
yeah.
it, it would be,
Nuts.
it would be, it couldn't,
Yeah.
It's not fair. No, it isn't.
I'm sorry, that just occurred to me
No,
as
thank you.
that
Makes sense,
kind of went by
Appreciate it.
really fast. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So, we have a map in front of us as to, I guess it came as some surprise to some of the members of this board that the elections are planning to be held at the new Abington Pre-K Middle High School. So, do we want to discuss that? I know that Bob was supposed to talk about, but Bob was asked by the town clerk to bring that up, just let people know about the election and where it's going to be held and the time and that sort of stuff. So, I guess, who here did not know that the elections were going to take place at the new school? Okay.
did you know it was gonna be at the new school? You did? Did you guys know it was gonna be at the new school?
Well, again, we were informed by the town clerk fairly, recently.
Originally, it was talked about at Beaverbrook, and then I think the Patriot Ledger published it, that it was at Beaverbrook, correct?
We
And-
talked about it here being at Beaverbrook.
Yeah, and then it had been
Did we?
changed to the high school after the Patriot Ledger had published it, so I think Leanne had that changed.
No, just, and I think it's probably there now only because it's there now, but the selectmen are the entity that sets where the elections
Sets
are.
the location correct.
They're the ones who set the election, they're the ones who set the time.
Yes,
It's not the town clerk, it's not the town
town manager.
manager, it's not the assistant town manager, it's this board that is supposed to be doing that. So I'm not sure how this got to where it is, but I would think in the future, you guys might want to say, I'm not sure this is the best place to be having the town election, or any election, to be honest with you. It's just,
I'm not sure it is
I
either.
think that the other place where we thought it was going to be is a better spot, but I think it's in the warrant now, right? So,
Yeah.
The warrant's not set.
no, but it's going to get,
It's going to be confusing if we try changing it now.
I think so, yeah.
I think we should see how this goes.
And it
this
was
year.
out on the, I did notice that, that's probably when I noticed it, but maybe this week it was out on the high school bulletin board. That's where I saw it.
Correct. It was on the high school bulletin board Sunday morning.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. If it doesn't go well, then we'll know,
Yeah,
you know, because we'll have an election.
but again, just keep in mind,
November.
this is the entity that sets where the election is and what the times are. It's not, certainly you consult with the town clerk, you consult with the town manager, but it's this board that should be making that decision.
So I would suggest that the police or the highway department puts some sawhorses or barriers here with arrows in for voting, so people aren't driving all the way up to the Rotary and then having to come back.
Going
So
backwards
as you're
and all the
coming
way around,
down
yeah.
Glenowitz Way, right at the entrance, there needs to be some signs there to turn here.
Mike,
In there.
okay,
The residents aren't gonna have this map.
Because, in all honesty, if you have kids in the school system, you're aware of the traffic pattern. However, that being said,
The rest of
All our
us aren't.
friends here tonight
Right.
don't
I-
have kids in the
you-
school.
You said it politely, but anybody that doesn't come down here for business or doesn't go to the schools doesn't know. It's confusing once you get in there, so.
Well, Lisa and I were totally confused going to a play there one night, trying to get in there.
Well, you're something.
Just on the cop, I know Leanne mentioned at the Democratic Town Breakfast that she had hired honor roll students to be placed in positions to point people where they should come to park and where they should go to vote. I know she's got that in place. I know she was gonna get this to the board today for tonight's meeting. The elections are on April 28th, Saturday. The timing, I believe, is 8 a.m. in the morning till 6 p.m. at night. It is a brand-new high school, and it's a brand-new vote at the high school, so it's the first time most of the residents are coming to the high school to vote, although they've gone there before for other past reasons. It's a whole new setup, it's a whole new driveway, it's a whole new parking area, and egress will be limited to 2. I understand, if I'm understanding correctly, you'll have 2 ways to get in to vote, and you'll leave out the back way and come around the Rotary and come out Glenwood's Way that way, so. But I do believe she has in place signage. I believe she mentioned signage. She mentioned having students available to guide people. So there'll be students in the parking lots to say this way to vote, and stuff like that. So she was preparing for that information. So, but it is the first time we're doing this, and it's probably going to be confusing, and we'll see how it goes. So it's going to be very interesting.
What's the 150-foot limit is from the
My understanding of
entrance doorway?
Yeah, I think it's just,
the two that I was told is the 150 rule is from the front door or from the voting location in the gym, anywhere 150 feet around. So my understanding is these double bars represent as far as any proposed candidate can go. And that's in the parking lot, so you really can't stand in the middle of the parking lot and hold signs. So that's gonna be a little tough. There is handicap parking along the back of the building, on the side of the building, so for people who are parking for handicap. I don't know if the plan is to drive all the way around. I believe that's still true. So, but I believe the double hash mark, right by the pre-K is the borderline where you can't.
That's the 150 mark?
That's the 150 mark, so.
There are 11 handicap parking spaces right across from the entrance, so you have to go in around the field, so.
Right.
Here, so.
Right.
And there's other closer parking behind, so, I mean, I would think most able-bodied people should park in the front 2 lots right when you pull in. But if you have some handicap with some disabilities, park in the back.
She is recommending as soon as you turn down towards the high school on the parking lot on the left-hand side, would be the place where candidates should park their cars that day. Or their help should stay up there, so they're not blocking where residents have to come in and come out to vote for. So to keep all of the people are gonna be there all day, not occupying spaces where we need the people to come in and come out to vote, so.
Where is the Lions Club going to sell their hot dogs, Ken?
Yes, the Lions Club will be there selling hot dogs, I think, in the second parking lot, in one of the parking lots closest to the entrance, I've been told. All right, any questions on this? Let's give it a year and see, hopefully it will go well, and if not, then we know as a board, we can change the voting location.
I'd like to recommend the board also use the electronic boards at the police station in Strawberry Valley to put announcements out about voting as quickly and as often as possible to get information out.
Vote as early and often as possible?
Vote as early as often as possible.
What do you say?
And should be a busy day. I hope it's a good day.
All right, I think that is all of our agenda except for the town manager's report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, tomorrow I'm meeting with our finalist for the health agent position to discuss terms and conditions of employment, starting employment, and presumably to fill out and pass a successful query application, too. We don't expect that to be an issue, so, and assuming all that goes well, he would be starting in a few weeks, and then if all this goes well, we'll certainly let the board, you'll be the first to know who the gentleman is. We don't want to tell that. I would still consider it a confidential process, and but I'm very excited that it's been a while since we've had a health agent. It's been a hardship And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I can't help but thank our friends in the neighboring communities, Whitman, Rockland, and the health agent from Avon, who's been helping us out. And obviously thank Bob and the chairman and vice chairman of the Board of Health, Linda Dickey and Terry Mays, who have helped us through this search process. It's been, the collective wisdom has been invaluable. And obviously their knowledge of what goes on, particularly the permitting, licensing processes, and that the health, Board of Health deal with in particular, have been very helpful in dealing with the process. So hopefully by end of business tomorrow, if not earlier, we'll have this solidified. So I'm excited to have this in the rearview mirror, hopefully. And we, as the end of March, we were able to beat the deadline to submit a grant with our comrades in Rockland and the Joint Waterworks for the engineering needs to submit another Mass Works infrastructure grant. The reason why, so we're told, that prior grant to Mass Works was not successful was because it was not a shovel-ready project. And we're hoping that it can, this year, can be shovel-ready without any outlay from the ratepayers. So the $300,000 grant was submitted on March 29th, and we had to go hard in the last week or so to get that in. So if we were unresponsive to your needs at that time, we appreciate your indulgence. So hopefully we'll be successful. Ultimately, that's going to have to, if we're not, we don't really have a choice, but otherwise to spend money from the waterworks to get that grant prepared one way or the other. So, and our budget process continues as you would expect. The Finance Committee's been working hard on Wednesday nights. They've been meeting, and I've been meeting with them on Wednesday, and as of right now, our budget model that we're working with does contemplate trying to build in the full-day kindergarten program with some free cash for seed money, as well as trying to build in the restoration of the detective division, the 2 positions for the latter half of next fiscal year. That is what we're trying to accommodate as of right now. And by the end of this week, we'll be forwarding to the Finance Committee and to the Board of Selectmen that updated fiscal model, a draft of that fiscal model, as well as the article you saw on Article 3 or 4, I believe it's 3, the capital plan, accommodating the capital plan from free cash. So that's the key question. Obviously would be whether, the seating of that plan, the full-day kindergarten, would have to be from free cash. The receipts, the Chapter 70 receipts would be forthcoming in FY '20. And presumably, they'd be recurring funds, as the best knowledge we have from the Department of Education and from a third-party consultant whose specialty is Chapter 70, within about $50,000. The best knowledge we have available is that if we do seed this program and we get those students into this system, along with the students that have returned to the Abington Public School System with the building of the new school, that effective FY '20, our Chapter 70 reimbursement will almost fund this system. But again, it's the seed money, it's the upfront funds, and there really isn't anywhere to get that. So we would not really be in a position to put money away into stabilization this year if we were to fund the full-day kindergarten program. So that's the drawback. That's the
What's the number on that?
that's $450,000. So we have approximately $1.1 million in certified free cash this year. So with that, we've got, again, the challenge of, again, it's, again, healthy free cash, but the needs are dealing with approximately $450,000 in snow over expenditure. Again,
I
it's.
won't have to listen to that anymore.
No, it's good.
I'll call you every year and tell you.
Now you can look out your window
right.
and enjoy the snow, finally.
Actually, is that rumor true, though, that you're actually increasing the snow budget this year? Weren't you?
Yeah, well, it's a rumor. It's a rumor still.
that?
It's still a rumor.
$10,000 more just for, they're gonna
you
call it the
know-
Indian Irvine increase?
That was 3 nor'easters ago.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
okay.
4?
So about $450,000 in snow over expenditure. Our average is about $400,000 over the last, 5 to 7 years. So we're a little bit over the average. Approximately, again, $450,000 to fund the full-day kindergarten. Fortunately, one of the offsets, too, is several $100,000 less in the VOTEC budget from what we had anticipated earlier in the budget process. We put in a plug number, which is somewhat lower than what we had anticipated. So some of the give and take during the budget process has helped as the process has gone along. So obviously we're trying to do a lot, but again, with the offset going forward into 2020 on the Chapter 70, which again which one would expect to be recurring. One of the major concern, as Peter and I and others talk about, is the issue what comes up when there's another significant fiscal downturn. That's the issue, as opposed to deviating from the goal of trying to put money into stabilization. What happens when there's another fiscal downturn? That's really the concern. We're still rebuilding, and if we're successful in restoring our police department in, next fiscal year, even granted, it might be towards the second half of the fiscal year, it's still, positive. That would be the number of budgeted positions is the so-called high watermark of its staffing. That's still restoring it from, the last economic downturn. So what happens when the next economic downturn
So
comes?
these two detectives, are they a new position? Are we adding 2 more?
Those would be 2 positions that are currently not budgeted,
Okay.
yes. Yeah, that would be
So
the,
they're not 2 more positions in it, it's
Right.
just the current.
those, no, those would be 2 additional positions that are not in the budgeted. So the
okay.
current budget absorbs the 2 positions that were formerly grant funded.
Right.
And what we're trying to build in would be the positions the chief would like to add back, that would be the detective division, that we've been trying to work towards, to restaff the department to what it was back in the, at some point in the,
So it would
early
be
90s.
2 additional police officers?
Correct. Instead of waiting till FY '20 FY '20 to build them in towards the latter half of FY 2019, I'm sorry. I'm going back a century here, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Bob, you had your hand up.
I just have a question. If we funded the full-time kindergarten in
Yes.
fiscal 2019,
Yes.
and in fiscal 2020, the Chapter 70 funds, if we're minus a portion of funding for that program the next year, is that another requirement for us to dig into our free cash to pay up the difference of that funding if we don't get full funding for the year 2? So
Well,
if year 1 is we're funding the whole thing, we $450,000. In year 2, we
Get
get,
reimbursed for the first year.
do we get a full reimbursement for the first year? Or do we get a 3/4 reimbursement for the first year? I mean, is there a cash outlay that's required to continue this each and every year by the town?
The financial calculation that the school administration has worked out or has anticipated in studying this with the Department of Education, and is that they will receive approximately just shy of $50,000 less than, so approximately $400,000 in Chapter 70 will be attributed to the increased enrollment after the kindergarten program is added.
$50,000.
Yes, so it'll be almost funding itself with the additional enrollment after the kindergarten program is added back. So the goal is not, Bob, not using one-time funds to fund recurring operations. That is not what we do in Abington.
I didn't think so, I just
No.
wanted to ask that question.
That's not what we do.
Okay,
That's-
thank you.
That's called emergency time.
Yeah, that's what I was afraid of.
No, there's no question there's a little bit of a leap of faith here, but if as you know, it is the number one operational goal, policy goal of the school committee, and as has been this board's number one goal is to restore our police staffing. And it might seem a little bit aggressive to try to do it all in one fiscal year, but the numbers are shaping up to allow us, to do that. The question is, if not now, when?
True, but
You know, if
the
not,
only
well,
other question I have in the
you know.
deviant is that it's a state election also.
Yeah.
So that the head of state could change between now and next year. And change in priorities is a change in priorities. So that's just another hook in the
Sure.
plausible possibilities of what could happen in November.
Right.
And who's in the office in January, and what their direction is versus what the current direction is. So I just needed to ask that question because I just was confused.
Sure.
I know we were laying out a large sum of cash the first year. I was just confused whether or not we're going to have to continue to lay out cash each and every following year to make sure it's free.
It won't be one-time money. It will not be one-time money, no.
Okay.
And again, like I said, our number one concern internally is that, like some of you here, like say Mr. Conley, having gone through administratively, I think a couple significant, some of you on finance committees and significant economic downturns over the years we've been at this. When those come, all bets are off.
Yeah.
But, do you live in fear of the next economic downturn, or do you, try to fulfill, try to provide service? It's one of those gut checks. What are we doing?
Your budget recommendation is going to recommend no money be put into stabilization this year.
It will be to give the public the opportunity to fund a full-day kindergarten program.
Right.
At this
Well,
time.
rather than putting money into stabilization.
Correct. That's
But we're not
correct.
taking any out.
No.
Okay.
Heck no.
And how much is in there right now?
Approximately 1.4 to 1.5, and I don't know the exact number, but that's
Okay.
million. Yeah, not
Any other-
dollars,
Any other
million.
questions on the budget, folks? Andy?
On the two detectives,
Yes.
where are those funds coming from?
Those would be budget, those would just be within the operating, either raise and appropriate or funds, regular recurring
So you're only
funds.
doing it halfway through the year, is that?
Yeah, towards the end of it would be, exactly. It's not like the money would suddenly appear, it'd just
No, no,
be
I
enough
understand.
funds in the budget to,
To do
just,
half.
just be uncomfortable to say, just being conservative with, not only that, it takes time to hire, fill positions, because presumably the chief would want to put more senior positions into those jobs anyway.
Would it be,
I'm sorry, Ken.
I'm not going to, not question your motives. Would it be smarter just to have one for the whole year, and then the next year
Again,
plan on doing a second one?
That's the chief's prerogative, but he has in his presentation to the finance committee and to us internally that it's operationally better to have two. But again, he may decide to, have one and then hire one in FY '20 perhaps, depending on what he finds more advantageous at the time. It's,
So has the town revenue gone up as a result of increased state aid or
So
new growth?
It's not
or-
stated, it's just, it's just a, 2.5%, and, it's a healthy new growth, but we're still being conservative with our new growth. It's, I wouldn't say it's anything out of the ordinary.
from the insurance
And again,
companies.
we've had several years in a row, as you know, of healthy new growth in excess of $1 million, so we're still being reasonably conservative, other than, the kindergarten program. There's nothing out of the ordinary here. And as you also know from past budget and the other issues we talk about, we still have to be cognizant of the fact that we have some contracts that we have to fund, and the availability of those funds are still where they've been for the last several years. So.
Thank you.
And as I said, by the end of the week, the budget model, we'll be providing that to both the Finance Committee and the members of the Board of Selectmen. And in addition to that, our housing rehab grant, CDBG award is coming to an end on June 30th, and we're really not in a position to update that. The need has not been established to file for yet another grant. This is a regional grant with Whitman. There's about $50,000 of uncommitted funds still to be spent, though. And about 60 homes have been upgraded, rehabbed since 2012. And we don't want to turn the funds back if we can find a home for those, so to speak. No pun intended, didn't mean that. So if there's anybody in the community who feels that they might have a need in their own home, to maybe do a rehab project in their own home, if they have any concern that perhaps, or any opportunity, they'd like to, the local office here is at our senior center at 982-2145. Again, $50,000 is still available, so please give a call, or if they want to, again, even call our office, we can put them in touch with the local coordinator for any local rehab project. We'd love to spend the funds locally rather than turn them back to the state. And speaking of that state grant, we are eligible this year coming up. It's been 2 years through the Community Compact program. As you know, that was a new program 2 years ago. We had a couple of projects funded, but this year it is a perfect program. They funded a couple regional planners a couple of years ago throughout the state, and it's both Rockland and Abington are both eligible this year. So we'll be talking to Rockland about that as really a good program for the initiative that was outlined, as you know, a couple of months ago here as seed money for a regional planner. So that's something that's still on the drawing board, I think, and seemingly a good program for that initiative. So I confirmed that today, and of course they always couch that if it's funded, you're eligible, and it's a program we fund. So so it's on the drawing board. So, and that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
I have a couple of things. I think Bob has something too. For our next meeting, could we get the school building committee in to give us an update on how that's going?
We will
Please?
put
Is
that
agreeable to
request
the
out.
board?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
I know there's making a lot of progress down there, and we'd like to get some of the heads there in to talk to us about. I have a concern, and I'd like to see some improvement on, well, first of all, congrats, the town of Abington has a Facebook site. However, there's only been one posting on it. I would love to see, and I know it can be done, and if you need help, let me know. I don't know. I'd like to see a posting a day on there. Anything. I mean, hydrant flushing. There was a Nixle report about a police scam for the elderly. I mean, last day for registering voting, they're open late downstairs. Anything. Just keep it flowing. The town election, it was
CDBG grant stuff. That's
yeah, exactly. I mean, I know it's people.
Baby steps, but
It's only been one posting on there since March 14th, and it was about trash pickup, which is good.
Sending out nixles and stuff, and that stuff should be on there too.
Is there a way that we, as a board, can help you gather this information or enter it? Not that I want to, but I mean, I just want to see it be more relevant, because, you even have people in the audience tonight. How am I going to know about this hearing? Well, we could use the Facebook site to tell them. A lot of people use, I mean, I'm on Facebook all the time, even during the meetings.
It took you
Talking about us.
Only when Tom's talking.
It took you 4 years to get me this far, okay? You don't
No,
push me. No, I
I'm-
appreciate your comments,
See,
Ken. I
I'm not
appreciate
joking,
it.
though, seriously.
appreciate your
We have this Facebook site, and the most complaints you hear about is transparency and
Notifications.
communication. I mean, Andy had to find out that the town elections are at the high school from the board at the end of the street, and that's,
Oh, at least I did.
exactly, exactly.
Nice it was
Not
out there.
everyone drives by.
No,
that.
I know. But so, I was thinking, would you be opposed to maybe just the chairman having access to the Facebook page? If
Not at all.
Not every, I don't think all of us
Not at
should,
all.
but if.
No,
just-
I don't think so, yeah. I think the
chairman
chairman.
did, he wanted to
fine.
throw something
And
on
then
there.
we can send to the
Send it to the
chairman.
chairman if we have something to.
Yeah.
Be very happy to do that.
So just have,
It's not just
whoever
one
made
person.
it up, have him make him an administrator and he can.
Absolutely.
He can enter onto it too, and then, just
I
another job.
I
for
honestly
you.
think there could be a posted day.
In fairness, we're still engaged mentally with dealing with the website. It is a change in culture for us, I'm the
Yeah.
first to admit.
I honestly think more people go to Facebook for information now than they do the website, believe it or not. I mean, if they want forms, obviously, they're gonna go to the website, but if, for just general information, and the last thing, in the announcements, I forgot to mention this, and I doubt very much if anybody's actually still watching this, half the members are asleep here, but the Abington Republican Town
Oh,
Committee
it's-
is having the candidates' night tomorrow night
Right here.
here, 7 o'clock. It will be filmed for cable, right? Okay, thank you. It will be filmed for cable, and it'll be shown a lot. But if you want to come to the audience, you can ask questions through
Written questions.
written questions at 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock tomorrow night. That's all I have. I think Bob had something else to talk about.
A couple of meetings ago, we had the MBTA in here, and we talked about cross-gating, double cross-gating. We also talked about educational. They offer an educational process to help the students in the town to get educated.
I've been calling them and they're not returning my calls.
Okay, so I just want to know if we could follow up with the
I'll
MBTA.
follow up again
To
tomorrow.
find out what's going on with that. I'm not picking on you, Alex, I just,
No, I know, Dory and I talked about this
Yeah.
a month ago.
Yeah.
And they're not returning the calls. I'll reach out to Jim Cantwell again, because he was the one that got it going.
Right.
They said it was a free program for kids,
Yeah.
it was in middle school to learn,
Yeah.
because it's been a long time.
And
They
they
did
were
it.
gonna look at North Ave, they were gonna put a gate down on Summer Street.
Yeah. Right.
None of it's been done.
right, that's, I just wanted to bring it up, that's all.
Yeah.
Very good.
Anybody else have anything else?
Yes, I want to make sure on the next agenda, discussion of playgrounds, parks, so we can do this capital planning
Yeah, she's got it.
board, or whatever we want to call it, to review.
I think
the
that
parks.
could actually tie in with the CPA if they're coming to give a presentation. I think it'd be perfect
Sure,
because
there
I
would
think.
be, yeah,
I think
Yeah,
the-
yeah.
between-
because that's what I want to use, the CPA.
Between the Park and Rec Commission and, or whatever, what do they call themselves? Is it the Park and Rec Board or Commission still?
It's
Park
Park
and
Rec-
Rec Commission.
Park and Rec
And the
Commission.
CPA, I think that they should, honestly, I don't think we should be involved in it, but that's for the discussion, but.
Well, I know there's some, well, that's for discussion, but I would like to see someone from soccer, baseball, lacrosse, all on there too, because they all have different ideas, not just CPA and not just Park and Rec.
So we actually have a full agenda, the next meeting, so, I mean, and I have no problem meeting. you know,
Beforehand.
If we want to have a meeting next, it's a holiday next Monday, isn't it?
Yep,
It's a holiday, so,
next Tuesday.
but maybe the meeting, maybe the 30th.
If you think you need to do it, then you can always call a meeting. so.
Yeah, call a meeting if you need to.
One at a time. One at a time.
Motion
To adjourn.
to adjourn.
Go ahead.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, non-debatable motion, we're done.
We can take the vote.
You don't need to, non-debatable.
Is this a dictatorship?
I guess.